Welcome to the City of Miami Beach Commission Chambers. We're glad to have you with us today. If you require ADA assistance or accommodations, please notify the city clerk or any staff member, and we will be happy to assist you. As a courtesy to everyone present, please silence all cell phones and electronic devices at this time. Lobbyist disclosure reminder. If you are a lobbyist appearing before the City Commission or any city board, you must have registered with the city clerk prior to participating. If you have not yet registered, please do so immediately. Presentation reminder. If you submitted a presentation within the 24 hours prior to the start of today's meeting, please check the computer located at the podium to ensure your file is properly loaded. When the floor opens for public comment, please step up to the podium, speak clearly into the microphone, and begin by stating your name and address for the record. How to participate in public meetings via Zoom. Once you have joined the Zoom meeting, go to the bottom panel and click on the raise hand icon to notify the meeting host that you would like to speak. As soon as the host grants you permission to speak, a dialog box will pop up on your screen with two options. Select the unmute button to begin speaking. After you finish speaking, mute your microphone and click on the lower hand icon. If you are joining Zoom via phone, tap the keypad icon and press *9 to notify the meeting host that you have raised your hand to speak. A voice operator will prompt you to unmute your microphone by pressing *6. Once unmuted, you may begin speaking. After you finish sharing your comments, be sure to press *9 to lower your hand and *6 to mute yourself. We kindly ask everyone to conduct themselves in a respectful and professional manner throughout today's meeting. Thank you for your cooperation, and thank you for participating in your local government here in the City of Miami Beach.
Please take your seats. The meeting is about to begin. Remember to speak into the microphone, as this meeting is being recorded for public record. Please stand by. We are going on air in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hi, everybody. Commissioner Laura Dominguez here with Commissioner Kristen Rosen-Gonzalez, and we're here to have the Public Safety and Neighborhood Quality of Life Committee. And with me on the dais are the fabulous Stephanie Ray Brooks, Assistant City Manager Mark Taxis, equally fabulous, and also pretty cool is our Chief Deputy City Attorney, Rob Rosenwald. Stephanie, do you have announcements to share with us?
Hi, good morning. Yes, we have a couple of announcements, but first, this meeting is a hybrid meeting with members of the committee in person and members of the public in person or attending via Zoom. If you would like to call in, you could dial in by calling 1-888-475-4499, and the webinar ID is 878-333-52956. The only announcement we have right now is that there was an addendum item added, and it is discuss the development and implementation of a one-year pilot program for a one-way valet parking service at the Miami Beach Band Shell utilizing parking lot 106 and such other municipal parking lots as the administration shall determine for vehicle parking. Said program to allow event attendees to drop off vehicles at the Band Shell entrance and retrieve their vehicles from parking lot 106 or other designated parking lots at the end of the event. And that is the only announcement we have for today.
Okay, so the first item.
Okay, so the first item will be item number 9, discussion regarding naming the Flamingo, oh, sorry, no, wrong item. Yeah, well, sorry. Item number 9, discussion regarding naming the Flamingo Park baseball field after Skip Bertman. This item is sponsored by Commissioner Rosen-Gonzalez and co-sponsored by Commissioner Fernandez, Parks and Rec.
Hi, John.
Director?
7 Beach High graduates from a time when I was maybe not even born came to me about Skip Bertman, who was a wonderful football and baseball coach at Miami Beach Senior High. They would love to name the baseball field after Skip Bertman. I think a lot of people would be really happy. He had, let's see, from 1984, Bertman he was a coach at LSU. He led Beach High, and I believe they won a state championship under Skip Bertman. But he was beloved by the Miami Beach community, by many Beach High alumni. So I don't think that this is a very controversial item. And according to this, the price will not exceed $10,000. So, John, do you have anything extra to add?
Not much extra. I mean, what an impressive resume he has being in Miami Beach, born and raised, and go on to such a wonderful career. And just to clarify, this would be naming of the field. So if this was to pass, it would be, Skip Bertman Field or something like that at Flamingo Park. It's not the naming of the stadium, because there was some question about that. And the budget is estimated because we don't know exactly what that naming will look like. We'll be at the scoreboard. So we're estimating 10,000 or less to.
How do you envision naming it for Skip in a way that's meaningful?
Excuse me?
How do you envision naming it in a way that's meaningful for Skip Bertman?
Well, that's what I'd love to speak to some of the residents who brought this forward to you to see if they have any ideas. We usually reach out to family or friends that bring this forward, or the commissioners, see if they have any ideas, and we collaboratively work on that. There's 2 things that come to mind. It could be often these namings are done on the scoreboard, because everyone's looking at the scoreboard and there's some sort of mention there, or it could be on the facade of the field itself.
I think we should make a motion to send this to the commission with adding his name to the scoreboard.
Okay.
I have a question. What other names are in that area on the field? I know that I sponsored something for one of the fields, and how does this conflict with that?
There's no conflict at all. That was reviewed before this was brought forward to committee. We do have you're putting me on the spot. We did 2 namings over there. We did the Arnie Notkin, which I believe you were the sponsor at the softball field.
Ernie Notkin.
I believe it was the Notkin. I believe that's the one you sponsored. You definitely sponsored the softball field, which is a completely separate field than this. So no conflict.
And there's nobody else on the scoreboard or in the past?
In Flamingo, we found no record at all that the field was named after anyone.
Okay, great. I just want to make sure that that's respected, that if there was a name from the past, that we
Yes.
don't later on hear it from residents saying, hey.
We have
No,
some historians that reach out to us, and
He's really beloved. Just so that you know, Skip was a graduate of a Miami Beach, is a graduate of Miami Beach High School, class of 1956, starting player in both football and basketball. He spent from 1962 to 1984 as a teacher at Miami Beach Senior High and spent 11 seasons as the head baseball coach at Miami Beach High School. From 1962 to 1974, where his team won a state championship. I tried to figure out what year, but I could not, which included, and was state runner-up twice. So he is very beloved, and I don't see a problem with putting his
Okay, I'll
name.
move
Are
the
you
item.
okay with that? Okay, so, there we go.
Take it to the full
All right,
commission.
yes.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Stephanie, next item.
The next item is item number 8, discuss making the pilot neighborhood tennis court reservation program permanent and extending the program to the tennis courts at Bayshore Park and selecting Van Dalen Tennis LLC as the contractor to provide oversight of the courts due to their established relationship with the tennis program at the Miami Beach Senior High. This item was sponsored by Commissioner Fernandez, and Parks and Rec will be presenting.
Okay, Commissioner Fernandez will be coming in later,
we could
hopefully.
hear this.
John, would you like to tee this up?
Absolutely. So as you may know, you've probably received emails over the years, the neighborhood courts, tennis courts that were sometimes not accessible for the residents because what was happening was a lot of unauthorized teaching and tennis lessons. So first, you had a code violation taking place. But then it was tough, right? Because then you have these residents, it's like, this is my neighborhood, this is my coach, we'd like to take the lesson. And then those who just wanted to play, it's like my courts are never available because people are doing business at the courts. And we were trying to find some way. And also, I want to mention, these pros that are doing business, they're not only doing business without maybe the proper licensing and permission, they also weren't gone through a background check like we would background check anyone who works with the public from the recreation department. So we came up with this model. We started as a pilot to see how it goes. And that was to always maintain, at least one court available, your first come, first serve, right? But also create a reservation system for those who just wanted the convenience to know before I get in my car and I drive over there with my friends, a court's available. And then also to provide a way for people that live in the neighborhood to take the lessons they wanted to take within their neighborhood, but also make sure that coach has the right qualifications and was vetted through a background check. We've done the pilot and it has been amazingly successful. The compliments we're getting are incredible. There's much order. I think you may have received some emails from happy residents that they're just so thankful that this exists. So since we did it as a pilot, now we're in front of you today we're recommending that we can make this permanent, and that making it permanent would just mean an amendment to our two tennis contractors' agreements with us, which we'll handle separately as a separate commission item. But also we have Bayshore Park coming on very soon. Very exciting. 6 courts. It will serve as the home courts for Miami Beach High School, and I know they're going to be thrilled that they can just come right there. They'll have 6 courts instead of driving up to Normandy for their practices. But after what we've learned over the decades is we want to start Bayshore on the right foot. Like not go ahead and have the Wild West there after we open. So ahead of time to go ahead and have what we call the pilot, to have this reservation system available, because that'll also make sure control for Miami Beach High School to get on and off those courts. And then, who would we select? We're recommending our partners from Miami Beach Tennis Center and Von Dalen Tennis. And why? Because right now they already have that relationship with Miami Beach High School teams. They're working with the children, the students, the student athletes up at Normandy Shores Park. So it makes sense since they have that relationship with the kids already, and we want to start off on the right foot at Bayshore to just go ahead and also add those courts to their contract.
I don't know about you, Commissioner, but I received a lot of positive response the last couple of weeks about this. It was a very well executed.
It's always good news
Yeah.
for a change.
So I'd like to move the item.
Yeah, no, this has been a longstanding problem across many of our tennis courts and the commercialization and not being available. So this will all be administered with you guys? Okay, that's fine. I approve.
Thank you. We'll take it to the full commission.
Okay.
Yes.
We have item number 18, a monthly update on the status of the Fifth Street pedestrian bridge and the Mondrian Hotel Mirador Condominium Baywalk projects. This item was sponsored by Commissioner Dominguez, and it will be presented by CIP.
Thank you. So, thanks. So the last few months, it's been the same information that they found electricals, that they were looking to move it. Have we had any progress?
Physical progress is harder to define. Progress on the project, there's been significant progress. We did run into an issue with an existing 20-inch water main that's being relocated that we needed to look at a little further, and that unfortunately delayed some work in the field. That has, to my understanding, been resolved, and we're pending a final approval from the engineer of record so that they can resume.
So you're not going to hardly hear you. The
I'm sorry.
water, no, I think it's the mic is so low. I've complained about it before. The water main being found, that's been resolved?
The concern about the existing water main and
Okay.
what had to be done to make that connection has been resolved.
And what about the other utilities?
They've encountered several utilities that were either out of place or needed to be upgraded, and they've been working on that as they go. The big issue in the last couple of weeks was that water line, that water main.
Okay,
And I do have Hector here to describe further their progress if you.
yeah, I would like to know.
Oh,
Hi.
yes, Hector Watera. And I have Mastic here as well, in case we need any details sprinkled in. It's accurate what's been said. You know, the water main that we were doing on the south side, it would have been a pretty quick installation. But we did find some valves that were off where they were supposed to be. And once we started exposing further, we found that the water line itself wasn't reinforced. So we've had to do that. We have to do some calculations, and it's kind of taken an extra 4 weeks on that process. So on the overall, with the utility impacts, we're kind of very behind on schedule right now, 3 to 4 months. So we're trying to get the structure and FDOT permit approved so that we can actually start installing structure in the ground, hopefully in October.
Are all of the utilities that were found, have they been addressed? Can we
They
move
are
forward?
currently being addressed.
Okay,
So we've had to-
what needs to happen next?
So we need to finish the installation of the water main on the south side. That's going to take a few more weeks, and Alan can correct me if I'm wrong. And then once we do that, we can get it finished, and we can get the structure started. But
Has
the-
that been started?
The structure?
The installation of the water on the south side?
Yeah.
And when will it be
That's
done?
all the areas excavated right now.
Okay.
So that hopefully we can get that finished with a final okay from the engineer of record, and we can get that finished in the next couple of weeks. Once that happens, we just need FDOT to give us a final permit. Because of the utilities, we've had to revise the structure substantially. So a drawing revision is in peer review right now. You guys have a third-party peer review the structure. I think there's another week or 2 weeks left on that review, and once that happens, we can go to FDOT for their final review to get a permit issued.
Okay, Commissioner.
What does that mean that you guys have to revise the structure? Is it gonna look different than it currently
No.
looks?
So essentially, the piles.
All underground.
Yeah, all underground. All the piles and the foundations themselves will have to shift and move, and sizes and depths have changed in order to work around the utilities that are there. But that has to be reviewed by a third party and then by FDOT again.
So shovels in ground in October and expected
Hopefully, if
finished
FDOT delivers their permit.
Okay.
It really depends on FDOT.
and expecting to be finished when?
We were shooting to be finished at the end of the third quarter of '26. Now we're looking at the end or the start of '27. If we can't make up time, which is obviously the operative thing here is to try to make up some time.
Wow.
But
Okay.
we were supposed to be drilling piles, starting the structure in May and June of this year, and we still haven't started, and we're looking at 5 months now behind schedule on getting the first piles on the ground.
Okay, I get a lot of questions about that, so I'm glad you have this update on here, Commissioner Dominguez.
It is our primary focus to get this done, get started on the structure and get it finished.
Okay, well, thank you for the update.
We have Commissioner Magazine on.
Okay.
Commissioner Magazine, if you could please unmute yourself.
Thank you, and thank you, Madam Chair, for hearing me. I'll be blunt but respectful. This is unacceptable on every level, every single level. We hold some fancy ribbon cutting. We've been promised 4 years. This is years behind schedule. And to sit here and say we've made progress because we say we found something that could have been a potential issue, but it took us a month and we figured out it's not. And that's our progress update. This is unacceptable. Okay, I don't get this luxury. I answer to our residents. I don't have this luxury to stand at a podium month after month, year after year, and say, oh, we're waiting for a permit. Oh, we're waiting for this. Enough's enough. For the Baywalk, I got an update yesterday that we're still in conversations with 800 West Avenue. I went back and read city meeting minutes from 2004, 2005. We're 15, 20 years, and we've been saying the same things that we're in discussions with 800 West Avenue. Enough. When do things start moving forward at an acceptable level? Okay, there's no accountability, but me and my fellow elected officials, we are accountable to the residents. And we can't sit there when we're stopped at Publix and people are saying, when do I finally get to walk my child to school over the bridge? And we say, well, you know, we found some underground utilities and, you know, it's been years in the making, we're waiting for permits. No, we don't get to say that. We need to move things forward. This is just getting out of hand. Now, this was supposed to be completed 3 years ago, I think, the overpass, and now we're talking about 2027. Enough's enough. Thank you, Madam Chair, for allowing me to be heard.
Okay.
Can I respond, or?
Sure.
I guess on the Baywalk, I'm not sure what conversations are happening with 800. We have a finished sidewalk that needs to be done to open the Baywalk. It's substantially complete, so I'm not sure what conversation.
Different segment.
So it has nothing to do with us on that point. On the second point, with the bridge, the utilities aren't, it wasn't just thinking we found something, is at every turn we found something. At one point, we've had to be excavating with a vacuum truck and basically spoons out there to find these utilities. So it's minimizing the impact that's happened to us. We're currently sitting on $1 million claim to us. So there's much more involved in the overall picture.
Hector, with respect, you guys are building 50, 60, 70-story buildings all over town.
In 24
You're
months.
very good at what you do. Okay, so to sit here and say, oh, we have these surprises, so that's why we're 3 and 4 years delayed, is not acceptable. Okay, we're talking about not knowing that there's underground utilities. Okay, this has been years in the making. You built a 45-story building. A 45-story building right next door. And to sit here 5 years later and say, oh, we just found some underground utilities that we weren't aware of, that's unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable.
Don't agree, but.
Oh, we get a lot of pressure from people
I understand.
asking us about it, why it isn't done. You know, we signed the agreement, you know, for the building, and we got the park. So people, you know, ask us all the time, so we look like we're not holding up our end of the bargain.
I
would just
100% agree.
You have to really be vigilant with DOT to get this permission as soon as possible. And
It's been our target for the past 2 years. I agree with Joe Magazine on that. It's been sitting with FDOT for an extremely long time. And now with this revision, because the utilities, it just kind of, it makes it worse. But it is our focus to get FDOT to finalize the permit and get started on that ground. For us, we need to finish and start this, the same as what he said. This is part of the 5-park project. We finished the 45-story building in record time ahead of schedule. And we just can't seem to get out of the ground on the bridge because of the utilities. Every time we turn around, there's a utility that's in the wrong place, or it's the wrong utility, or it's not where it's supposed to be. So we're trying our best, and we're trying to make up the time that we're 4 months behind now.
Thank you, appreciate that. But we do get grilled by the neighborhood associations and the residents at large, so, all right. Next item.
Next item is item number 1, discuss take action regarding possible amendments to the Residents' Right to Know ordinance to enhance transparency, notice, and accessibility for Miami Beach residents. This item was sponsored by Commissioner Dominguez, co-sponsored by Commissioner Bott, and it's going to be a multi-department presentation.
Good morning. Morning, Commissioners.
Okay. All right, so for the past year, I have received, speaking of getting grilled by neighborhood associations, many of them are very upset about residents' right to know. And most recently, somebody that is on one of our power boards called me livid because of an item that had gone through the track and he knew nothing about it, even though he had keywords and things set up. And I've spoken to you guys individually. What's happening?
So, Frank, may I start, please? So I want you to see what we do, so you can visualize what we're working to try to get the residents informed as much as possible doing this process manually. PJ, can you go to the clerk's website for a minute? Sorry, thank you. Not sure. So the outside, PJ, I'm sorry. There we go. So if you see on the bottom on the center screen, there's a Residents' Right to Know tab. Can you press on that, please? So what we do manually, go down a little bit. PJ, pick the last meeting, September 3rd. So we put in this web page everything that says Residents' Right to Know. We then create every item from that meeting. Obviously, my eyes are getting worse and worse every day. So we put in there the short title, so the residents don't have to read the full title. We give them the short title, the same ones we give you. We then tell them which, they can press on the item directly if they wanted to see the memo. And then what we do is we put the area of the city. So if they were only interested in items that are citywide, only interested in items in North Beach, so that PJ press the item and you can see that it goes to the actual agenda item. Thanks, PJ. So if you're only interested in a particular area of town, you can scroll down and just, instead of citywide, it will say North Beach, Mid Beach, South Beach. We send, as soon as the agenda prints, we send an email to everyone who was signed up to receive Residents' Right to Know notifications. We send to anyone who was signed up to receive MB Resident Connect notification and any resident association on file with us. So we automatically blast that and tell them this is available. What's the difference between this and the old system? The old system, if you signed up to receive Residents' Right to Know items, you would get an email for only the targeted area that you were interested in. I can't do that. So I have to send them the link to the entire list, citywide, North Beach.
And I'll say something, just, sorry to interrupt. I know that you're going through a lot of pain to do this manually, and the system's not working, and the residents are very upset. I get the complaints constantly. When we moved to the new system, Granicus, part of the agreement said that they had this feature, and my understanding is that they don't. My understanding also is that there's no other organization out there that we can move to because Granicus has gobbled up the other companies, so we're stuck with them. What can we do legally for them to fulfill the contract that they're providing to us?
So before we go on the legal side,
Okay.
first of all, I wanted you to see what we're doing, but
I know you're jumping through hoops, but it's not
But
working
Frank is
for
working with
how it
them
was.
now, so we've gotten over that hurdle, and I don't want to, Frank is working with them now to basically institute the same system that we have, but and legally, we got a refund for what we paid for as far as this system. So we've gotten that. But
Okay, Frank?
Yeah, good morning. While it may not be of much consolation given how long this has been going on, we have, in collaboration with the clerk's office, made a considerable amount of progress with Granicus on providing the functionality that we need to get Resident Connect working again. So just for clarity, Granicus does the agenda portion. Our team built the Resident Connect app, which is what sends the emails out. In order for that to work, we need to receive a specific set of information from Granicus to us that then we use and package and send the emails out. That kind of glue in between the two systems is what they weren't able to provide. They've gone through a considerable number of changes on their side, as Rafael and I have seen with their account team and the people that have been representing us. There is currently a daily meeting that happens on their side, on the technology side, all the way up the food chain to their executive level. I meet with them weekly. Rafael and I meet with, or our teams meet with them for the other changes and some of the other things that we're looking at. So I'm much more confident today saying that we're within the latter part of this project working the way that it should. They've fixed a lot of the classifications for the different areas that came as early as last week, earlier this week.
Today, Tuesday.
Yeah, so
Yesterday, Tuesday.
we've looked at that portion already so that we can see the different, whether it's citywide or North Beach or what area that had been a problem there. They've also worked on some of the performance problems that the clerk's office has had with packaging the agendas. And the last piece is they need to give us a way to be able to pull the links that Rafael showed on the presentation so that we can then email that link directly.
What's the timeline? When will this be fully functional?
So we hope to have an answer from them as far as timing for that last portion by the end of this week. That's what I was assured of during our call yesterday. Once Granicus provides us everything we need, my team should have it totally built out within 30 days for the development that we need to have on our portion.
Okay, so we'll keep this on the agenda until October, which is a month from now, and hopefully there will be some good news. I appreciate both of you. I know that this has been very difficult, and doing things manual is a backward process to how it was before, not easy, and I hope to get a resolution for the residents. Commissioner?
Yeah, it sounds awful. And confusing. But here's what I would suggest too. You know, we're generating an email, but I think we're living in like the age of the smartphone. So, you know, when the agenda comes out, it should be like just a link, a text alert.
Well, we don't do the text alert. We have another system. So this is the one that I sent to everyone who I know wanted this information.
Mm-hmm.
In addition, we have one that is sent out to everyone who signed up to get the agenda, and we provide them the same information. So we are going way and above as far as who I'm notifying, so I don't miss anyone. So, for instance, the neighborhood associations were not getting these email blasts, but that's one of the best ways for me to communicate with masses of people that the agenda's out if I send it to the neighborhood associations.
How many people are on the list, out of curiosity, that request the agenda that you email?
That's not me, meaning the request the agenda part, that's through our communications department, so I don't maintain that one. But I can tell you that, I can find out the number, but.
I do think a lot of our requests, though, should come through with like a text alert to the link, boom. You know, in the future, when people sign up, it's something to
We can talk to communications
explore.
about, say, hey, the agenda is out.
Yeah,
I can talk to them. I know it's sent through email. We don't handle that portion. We just set it to send out. But we can find out
but the people that sign up should get like Mid Beach, South Beach, North Beach, hey, there's gonna be a change in your neighborhood, boom, you get a text. Click the link.
That's the intent of what this is done via email. I'm not sure if text is available. But
Yeah, text is not available today. Just residents signed up using their email address. So if we wanted to move forward and explore that, we would have to have them. We would have to have them register with their cell phone numbers. They would have to opt into that, so we can have that conversation with communications and maybe provide an update at the next meeting or the one after.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Thanks,
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you, BJ.
Okay, next item.
Okay, next item is number 19, discuss timeline for construction of the Miami Beach Convention Center Headquarter Hotel and anticipated open date. This item was sponsored by Commissioner Dominguez and co-sponsored by Commissioner Fernandez.
Okay. So pulling up to City Hall this week, those big mountain of sand, so things are moving right along. Would love to hear the update.
Yes, we continue working on the foundation, and we have commenced to work on the vertical. The first elevated slab is going to be built towards the end of this month, the second floor. And we are on track to complete topping off in the summer of 2026 and hotel opening at the end of 2027. The mountain is starting to come down slowly, but surely. So that should not be an issue.
The
And
hotel's gonna take as
Hector
long as the
is-
crosswalk, huh? I wanted to bring something to your attention. What's going on 17th Street is very weird. Anywhere else in the world where there is construction, there is a protected walkway with access, right? Because there is no other place to walk on 17th Street. Right now, though, when you cross the street from City Hall, let's say I'm walking east, there's a weird metal blockade that people are crawling through, okay? And then they're weaving their way in and out of 17th Street, many times walking on a very narrow street in traffic, against traffic, and we have to pull this together. I mean, you guys need to create a covered walkway for whatever, and you need to have access on the sidewalk, and this has to happen now. Like, it's for safety purposes. I myself, decided, I've done it a few times. I go in the metal, and then I weave my way out of the metal, and then I'm back in, because it makes no sense. I've never seen that before.
Well, I think we just got approval on the diagonal crosswalk, which will help that, because right now people are walking on the side of the project, on the side of the construction site where they shouldn't be. They should be actually crossing over to conventions over on this side.
But they're not, and you
Well,
have
they're not
to,
following the signage, so we're trying to update, we're gonna update the signage. We've been talking about removing a bus stop and doing further items and kind of upgrading the signage.
well, why that, okay, but that's the sidewalk right there.
There's two things. There's two sidewalks that we are impacting. One is on Convention Center Drive, and the other one is on 17th Street.
Convention Center Drive is, okay,
So Convention Center Drive, once we install the diagonal crossing, which as of now our plan is to do it in the next 2 weeks, okay? That will help alleviate the pressure of people walking, they continue walking, I've seen it, right? On Convention Center Avenue. They will be able to cross to the west sidewalk in front of City Hall.
but why can't our sidewalk be open like any other construction site where you see in any major city, they build a construction sidewalk that is covered and you have access?
We wish we could, trust me, we wish we could.
Why?
But
And why can't we?
we do not have enough space. This is a lot line to lot line development.
You mean
And
it's
we
going
need
right up
to-
to the sidewalk?
We need to actually build, we need the sidewalk space for maneuvering and storage of materials. I know,
The
it's,
sidewalk space for, it's such a small sidewalk. I really would like that sidewalk to be open, especially before the season. That is critical. You guys have to have that side of east and west sidewalks on 17th Street. I don't know who's I know you're in charge of this, but
We are-
I
we are
don't
both.
understand why that can't be done.
Well, the plan for the build, the way the construction development was planned was to close that all off. We're gonna seal that off with hard panels, so nobody can weave in and out. They shouldn't be doing that.
yeah.
We do need to take the entire, because we have utilities running on there, the hardscape, the entire structure, movement along the site in order to even build that.
But you're not
this property.
building on the sidewalk, that's our
We're gonna take the
sidewalk.
sidewalk.
So-
And-
We're taking the signage all the way to all the way to the outside of that sidewalk.
But why,
In order to build the building up to the edge of the sidewalk,
how,
we need to.
so the building is coming right up to the edge of the sidewalk?
The construction required to build the building requires us to use the sidewalk. And we submitted an MOT, we presented to the city multiple times our logistics plan.
There's no setback from
Yeah,
the
there's setbacks,
building?
there's setbacks,
After
hardscape
we-
and all, but we also have utilities and a lot of things that are running in those setbacks. So we have to operate there, and once we start building the structure, the only way to maneuver around the site is in that setback area. So it's essentially, it's a postage stamp project. We're building to all four sides, and we've got 15 to 20 feet, if that, around the property to move, to move around. Store materials to get people in and out,
How long will that be closed?
the duration of development.
And it needs to be like fully closed.
It will be.
Yes.
And
We have panels, we have hard steel panels that are gonna align the
be-
perimeter of the project.
okay. Not happy about that.
Thais Vieira, project liaison for the city. I think it's what's going to help within the next couple of weeks, I believe, is when, actually less than that, right? The artistic panels that you see, they're back in the back of sidewalk today. They're going to be moved out. Actually, they're going to be brand new panels moved out to the front. So you're not going to see that gap anymore. I think that's creating confusion. That's exacerbating the problem. So that should be helpful. I think we've had these conversations with them, and I believe that maybe in the future, there might be an opportunity to explore a covered sidewalk once they actually have the shell up, you know. Maybe it doesn't need to continue all the way through the end of the project, but we can explore something better sooner than that.
Okay, thank you.
So we'll continue with that until next month.
Okay.
And on to the next item.
Okay, the next item is item number 2. Discuss options to enhance enforcement of quality of life offenses such as excessive noises from the utilization of outdoor equipment and smoking ban on the beaches. This was sponsored by Commissioner Bott, and Commissioner Fernandez was a co-sponsor.
Yeah, sorry, Commissioner Bott wanted me to text her. Has she been alerted?
She's online,
Okay,
and her hand
excellent.
is up. Yeah. Commissioner Bott, you could unmute yourself.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Great. So this item is born of the fact that we have lots of well-intended and good laws on our books, but we don't necessarily get the enforcement results we would like, not necessarily through lack of effort, but because of the types of laws, like no smoking and open containers and excessive noise and things like that. So I wanted to give the administration an opportunity to do some research and make some suggestions about how we can more effectively enforce the laws that were passed to improve collective quality of life for residents and visitors and businesses. So with that, I'll turn it over.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Hernan Cardino on behalf of Code Compliance. So we know that the gas leaf blowers were banned in August, fully banned in August of 2023. And then we have a phase-out ban for the gas chainsaw with our goal of achieving net zero emissions by 2050. So when we look at what we've done up until now, we've had about 490 interactions with folks, primarily landscape companies, where we haven't found a violation, but it gave us an opportunity to hand out the city's half-page little flyer on the ban and going to these electric units instead. We've issued about 24 violations and 1 warning. And I think our compliance rate, I mean, it's a balanced approach. Our compliance rate right now is probably around 98% on every interaction we have now. That's not to say that, you know, we're still hearing these disturbing sounds. Our neighbors wake up with this on Saturday morning. It's difficult to enforce by the time we get there. Either the person's gone or the activity has stopped, but it gives us an opportunity to have that interaction and do the education on the ban on these gas-powered chainsaws.
Commissioner? Oh, I guess it was Tanya. It was Commissioner Bott.
And what about the issue of smoking on the beaches? I mean, it's the gas-powered yard tools, that's great, but that's just one of the sort of nuisance ordinances that we've taken upon ourselves to improve our city by effectuating. So smoking on the beach, other things like that.
So before I turn it over to Major Campbell on that, just to finish up on the gas-powered leaf blowers and chainsaws, this distribution in the city is about 45% in our South District, 31% in the middle, and 24% in the North District is where we find our complaints and violations coming from. Major.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Major Jovan Campbell, Miami Beach Police Department, in charge of the Patrol Operations Division. Madam Chair and Commissioners, we have a dedicated ATV squad of 1 sergeant and 4 officers who work from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. There are times where they adjust their hours, fully dedicated to addressing all issues on the beach, from South Beach to North Beach, as well as the prohibited smoking. Since May, and we've dedicated or focused our efforts on the smoking prohibition, we've issued approximately 30 warnings and actually made 1 arrest. I can tell you in speaking with our officers and the sergeant that's over that squad, most of the people who they encounter who are in violation are tourists. So obviously we give them warnings, we educate them on the ordinance, and 99% of the time we get compliance. Yes, ma'am.
You arrested someone for smoking?
Yes, in this particular case, Commissioner, this was a member of the unhoused community who was very resistant and belligerent, and had been given issues in addition to the prohibited smoking ordinance, have been in violation of other things as well. So the officers used their discretion to take that individual to jail that particular day.
Major, could you elaborate a little bit on this task force or whatever this enhanced enforcement that you have had in place? And is that going to continue?
I'm sorry, ma'am. Can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, can you, I think you mentioned something about an enhanced effort of some sort over since May, and that's where the staff came from, this sort of more vigilant interaction with people who are smoking and educating tourists and things like that. Is that an ongoing detail? Is that going to continue for the foreseeable future? Can you give us a little more insight into that?
Yes, ma'am. That is part of our ATV squad's normal course of duties, ongoing. This is not something that's just temporary. We will continue to enforce that ongoing. I can also tell you that in addition to the officers assigned to the ACV squad, all of our officers have been basically trained and educated on the ordinance, because from time to time you'll have officers other than the ones that are assigned to ATV who have tasked with details out there, assigned to details on the beach. For example, if we have spring break or any other special event, we have more than just the 4 officers and sergeant that are normally assigned on the beach. So we want to make sure that all our officers know what their expectations are. And again, you have my assurance that we will continue our efforts to address this issue.
Thank you.
Can we leave this on and just get an update in 3 months or so?
3 months.
See where we are, and if the numbers are declining because the compliance is better, or if it's a sort of an ongoing need because so many of our beach users are visitors and just need to be educated. We're also in process of updating the signs as people come onto the beaches from the beach walk, which will hopefully be more easily accessible in to teach people about what is not allowed on the beach. So it would be interesting to see if that is a factor in all of it.
Okay, thank you. So we'll talk about it again in December.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
And we
Thank
have
you.
public comment.
Yeah.
Mitch Novick, if you could please unmute yourself, you have 2 minutes.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Mitch Novick. I live in the entertainment district. Want to commend our police, the drug dealers who for years were congregating across the street outside my building, have been missing, at least for the last 2 months, and that's a good thing. Regarding noise along Ocean Drive, especially the 1000 block, we have businesses which pollute the public right-of-way with blasting music, creating an attractive nuisance, and also the golf carts are still a problem. I believe the problem begins with our businesses who blast noise, which give the golf carts a green light to, again, create noise and havoc along our streets. Thank you.
So I'll mark that item to return in December. The next item is item number 3, discuss take action regarding an intergenerational program engaging seniors to read or teach foreign languages to young students within the city of Miami Beach. This item was sponsored by Commissioner Magazine, and Education and Parks will be presenting.
All right. Hi. Does the commissioner want to tee this up?
He is online. I will let him know. Commissioner Magazine, if you'd like to mute yourself. He's
Hi, all.
unmuted.
Madam Chair, thank you for hearing this. If I have Louis there, he can kind of help fill in, but just at a very high level, what we're thinking here is, I see two communities in our greater Miami Beach community that oftentimes operate independently of each other, but have so many synergies. And specifically what I'm talking about here is our senior citizen community and our young public school, any school community. And what I'm looking to establish, and very open-ended about this, I'm not dogmatic in having anything already planned out, is finding various ways to link our senior and oftentimes elderly community with our younger community. It could be for learning opportunities for our children. One idea I had is, especially given our elderly community oftentimes tends to be of Hispanic origin and speak Spanish, we could have Spanish tutoring sessions, reading sessions, and the seniors, what they get in return is that comfort, that sense of community and well-being. I know when I take my daughter to some of the senior centers or senior events, their eyes just absolutely light up. They totally forget that I'm there, and the entire focus turns on to Capri. So I want to work with the QEC, with Dr. Rosenfeld's department, find opportunities where we can essentially serve as the liaison to help facilitate bringing those senior citizen community and our school population together.
I think this is a great idea. I love the idea of, children and the elderly together. It's very hard to do this through MDCPS though, but possibly through Parks and Rec at the South Shore Community Center, you could, because they have a senior population that's right there. Parks and Rec has a room that they've been using, so if you wanted to do something like that, you could probably run some sort of program in the afternoon through Parks and Recreation. I guess you could compensate the seniors. They probably really like it and could use the money too, so.
Yeah, I don't know about any of the specifics on that. That's the idea, to hash it out here in committee. But it is really to unlock what we think is the potential that our senior community has, and to make sure that they can have this intergenerational efforts with our schools. Now, exactly how that would happen, I do agree that through MDCPS is probably a lot more difficult, and through our Parks Department, which does a great job, and through our Education Department as well, that does an amazing job. That would probably be the idea that we're trying to do, but we're open to the specificities of how that happens. Leslie, if you can.
Sure. Good morning. Leslie Rosenfeld, Chief Education Officer. Currently, both Miami-Dade County Public Schools and our Parks and Recreation Department have a very clear path to volunteer at any of our public schools or within specific parks programs. So any community member, including our seniors, could participate in that currently without any intervention. As far as what they would be doing at the public school site, that is obviously determined by the school site administration and where they feel they need the most assistance. And I'll defer to our Parks Director, Mr. Rebar, on what the utilization would look like for, or what it does look like for a community member who wants to volunteer during a park program. In addition to that, the city already funds reading interventionists at our 4 elementary schools and our middle school to support reading interventions. Those individuals are recruited by the city through our partnerships with universities across Miami-Dade County, and these specific college students are on a track to either get a degree in elementary education or English, so that they have experience teaching somebody how to read, which is a very different skill set than simply being read to. And so we do recruit, and we've been doing this for several years, college students. We place them at our public schools, and then the principal makes the determination of how best to utilize them. They're usually paired with the reading specialist at the school site, and then support children that are struggling readers.
I have Commissioner Bott with her hand up as co-sponsor. She would like to speak. Commissioner Bott, you can unmute yourself.
Thank you. So I obviously love this item. I'm co-sponsor with Commissioner Magazine. It is such a tremendous opportunity given the demographics of our communities And what I had sort of had in my mind's eye is like the programs that you see all over Europe and other countries where, as Joe mentioned, you put, different populations together for the benefit of both. I was actually seeing it as less of a school intervention or offshoot as something that we could do, as we were talking about programming for the South Shore Community Center, as we talk about how to best utilize the log cabin. I'm bringing an item to discuss that in more detail. But one of the things that could happen there is there could be this sort of hub for intergenerational connections. And it's not just to facilitate better language comprehension, but it's also the connections, the bonds, and the value gained by both parties when you interact with people who are not your immediate family, but, and not from your peer set, and who can teach you about life and their experiences and how to see things through different eyes. I think it's incredibly valuable. And I just am, leery of it getting pigeonholed as an academic-only experience. And I do think there are ways that we can do it with our own programming, with our own facilities. We have 2 excellent sites, so it's North Shore, with the log cabin coming online. We could work with Unidad in North Beach, potentially, and we could definitely do it at the South Shore Community Center. And I would venture that if we put the word out and made it sort of an organized program, that there would be people in the community who would be willing to help lead this and organize this on a volunteer basis. Obviously, if there's a stipend, that'd be great, but I think there'd be a lot of interest in kind of teams like this. So just wanted to add my 2 cents about making sure we don't pigeonhole our thinking just about doing it in the schools.
Yes. I mean, I think it's a great idea. It would be better if a nonprofit organized this, like Jewish Community Services or, Parks and Rec. If you did a program, I think it would be great, like reading with the seniors. You know how to vet people, right? For these programs.
We already have the audience. We have an after-school program. We have a playtime program. We have a portal that allows people to register to start the process of being background checked to be a volunteer. So I think the first step may be not creating a program, but first advertising and spreading the word of this initiative. Get the folks on board. We could bring them right into our existing programs, and as that grows, then maybe we do something at South Shore. We certainly could look at doing another program. We may not need to. We have hundreds of school-age children every single day, with very few exceptions, year-round. So they're already there. And we have seniors. You go to the senior events. We have 700, 800, 900 folks show up. So I think it's just bringing this idea, more formalizing, spreading the word, and see where it goes from there.
Maybe just have some flyers if you wanted to get the volunteers. Have some flyers at South Shore and North Shore.
Yeah.
And those people who wanted to sign up
We
could.
have a database of the seniors. That's how
Yeah.
they get to our wonderful events for them. And Leslie and I and our teams could work together at kicking something off with what we already have.
Okay, wonderful.
Okay, so it looks like continue to notify and spread the word on the existing programs.
We're going to target our playtime program and our after-school program.
Okay.
And bringing the intergenerational idea into whether it's foreign language instruction or it's reading. We'll figure that out.
Okay, and Commissioner Magazine, anything else you would like?
Yeah, and just to Dr. Rosenfeld's point, while we do have a clearly established program, like other things with our senior community, perhaps we just have to take this step to help them facilitate that process. I agree, it could be at one of the community centers, the one that is most natural, just because the close proximity is South Point Elementary School and Rebecca Tower. It could be some sort of after-school reading, open-ended, whatever that is, but perhaps it's us taking a lead role. Like John said, we have the audiences there on both sides. That part's easy. It's just bringing them together, and perhaps we could just play a role in helping the seniors go through that volunteer vetting process. So thank you, Madam Chair, for hearing this, and thanks for the team for working on this.
Thank you.
Thank you. So let's on to the next item, 20.
The next item is item number 20, discuss and take action on the dying tree populations in North Beach Oceanside Park. This item was sponsored by Commissioner Rosen Gonzalez and co-sponsored by Commissioner Bott. Environmental
Okay,
will be
Commissioner
presented.
Rosen Gonzalez.
Yeah, we have this update because a lot of the trees that were recently planted then died because they were the wrong specimen, species, tree. So we're replanting now? And-
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. Lindsay Preck, Deputy Resilience Officer and Assistant Director of the Environment and Sustainability Department. Urban Forestry has continued to monitor the health of the trees that were planted adjacent to North Beach Oceanside Park. The most recent evaluation took place in June to coincide with the start of rainy season, and we also plan to conduct an additional evaluation at the end of the rainy season. So far, the most recent evaluation determined that the current survival rate is 69% for the trees closest to the beach walk. Many of the previous struggling trees have seen new growth as a result of the rainy season, which is a positive sign, but the overall survival rate has still been declining since the memos that were previously provided to the committee back in January and May of this year. Planning and procurement is underway for the replacement of trees in this area, and we are implementing some recommended planting strategies as a result of what we've learned. 81% of the proposed trees that we'll be planting are either sea grapes or silver buttonwoods. The planting design will place trees in groups to protect each other and also use sea grapes as a barrier to protect trees that are a little bit more inland and more susceptible to direct salt spray and have been declining that we've noticed. Most trees will also be purchased at smaller heights than they were initially. We're looking to do more juvenile trees at 10 to 12 foot heights. They should be able to adapt more readily to this environment and acclimate rather than nursery trees that are installed at taller heights. We are also proposing to increase the watering period from 1 to 2 years and also requiring monthly checks on the trees by the contractor. At the previous committee meetings, we were also tasked with pilot testing 5 potentially adaptable tree species and reaching out to FDP regarding the watering within the dune system and their irrigation requirements. In regard to the 5 pilot plant species, we selected 5 trees: bay cedar, false mastic, Jamaican dogwood, Spanish stopper, and white stopper. Those installations were completed this morning. So bright and early this morning, our urban forester went out. The prices of the trees were initially unacceptably high when we put it out to bid. It came out to an average of close to $4,000 per tree to include hand watering. So we revisited that initial proposal. As an alternative, what we did was we planted the trees on the park side, but still adjacent to crossovers where they would get direct salt spray and still have that harsh environment that we're looking for. But it gave us access to the park's bubbler system. So we reconnected a bubbler system there to allow us to still test the effects of direct salt spray, but while also incorporating the required watering that we believe we will need. We're going to keep that on for approximately 2 years. As a result of that replanning, the cost came down to an average of about $1,600 per tree. So it was a significant savings by reevaluating that choice. We will continue to monitor those trees closely. We also reached out, as I mentioned, to FDP regarding the irrigation requirements because in the past when we've done large-scale dune restorations, they've only limited us to 1 year of irrigation. So we reached out and asked their perspectives on the committee's request to establish either permanent watering or extending the watering periods. The state's coastal construction control line program position for our region is vacant. So while that position is being filled, they did generally indicate that their position on watering is based on not impacting sea turtle nesting habitat. And since sea turtles have laid nests up to and even within the dune system, they have to consider any wet sand that may impact sea turtle nests. So if there's a potential to water the sand, they potentially could not approve that watering. It would be considered on a case-by-case basis depending on the area, and some of the evaluations to consider could be the width of a dune system and where the irrigation might meet the beach. So city staff would reach out to FDP on future installations within the dune system on that case-by-case basis. Our staff would not recommend a permanent watering system because it does tend to invite invasive species and outcompete natives if there's a constant watering system. But we would recommend increasing that 1-year limitation that they've previously instituted and requesting 2 years and then evaluating from there whether bubblers would be possible. This could allow native vegetation to stabilize and grow the dune system. It's consistent with environmental regulations and the dune management plan.
Can I ask, what is a bubbler?
So instead of like a sprinkler, it comes out in smaller quantities at the base of a tree. So there are, exactly.
Drip irrigation. Okay, so right now, 30% of the trees are dead, and we need to replant them. Do we have funding to do that?
We do. We have GeoBond funding as well as the urban forestry, the United States Forestry Community Grant that we received a couple years ago. So we are looking to implement that as part of the grant and GOB program.
Okay, and you're buying smaller sea grapes?
Yeah,
which we know are resistant.
Yes.
And those are costing $1,600 per
Yes,
piece?
it includes.
That seems like a lot.
We include a lot. We include a warranty, the cost of the trees, installation, staking,
Well, what happened to
inspections,
the
and
warranty
watering.
on the 30% that died?
So at the 1-year closeout for the Beach Walk project, they did survive at that 1-year period. So at the warranty phase, they were alive.
You should ask them for like a 2-year warranty if we're spending this kind of money on trees. Say, look, we don't need to keep replanting these trees. I mean, sea grapes are not going to die.
Right.
And even if you don't water them, they're still going to survive. So, I mean, I guess the lesson learned was sea grapes are the most resilient. We'll see with the other 5 trees. You just planted them
this morning.
This morning?
Yes.
Okay, so that will be interesting to see what happens. I'd get those planted as soon as possible because people do complain about the gaps.
We're looking to do it very soon. So
Really?
there should be some going in the ground shortly and then over the next year as well.
Okay, thank you. Oh, by the way, what happened to our trees in North Beach on that one block?
Good
that we
timing.
planted?
Our urban forester also inspected this morning since he was in the area. They had seen a decline over time. There were 6 trees that were planted and they were satin leaf species. During the dry season, they did desiccate significantly, but over the last few weeks, because we have had significant rain events, there are 2 that were previously on the edge of being dead that have perked up a little bit. So we have 2 that were not doing as well, 2 that were in decent condition, and 2 that were thriving. But because of the recent rain events, they have done a lot better in the recent months.
Is there any shade from them yet? I mean...
There's not much. Satin leaves provide minimal shade, and because of the way that they were installed without any underground infrastructure such as silvacells, it was a pilot to test if we could, plant in concrete and bump outs. They don't have the soil volume required to really give that full canopy effect, but there's some respite in the areas where the parking spaces are adjacent to the triangular bump outs.
What kind of trees are there on Meridian? Like, we know that those work, they thrive, they create shade.
Those are calophyllums. They do need a significant amount of soil volume, and that species of tree, especially in that location, took 100 years to get to where they are today.
Okay.
We're working on it.
You. Okay.
Thank you.
Is there any public comment? Because I know a lot of people were upset about this.
Correct. There's no public comment at this time.
So to close that aside?
No, I think we should have them report back. I don't know. Report back in 6 months on the 5 species that we planted to see which one was the most resilient.
Sounds great.
Interesting, right? They planted
April?
5. Yeah.
I could say April of next year.
I want to add one more thing about this. If there's one thing that I want to do, it's create a tree canopy in North Beach where there's no trees. And it's so frustrating to me that we can't seem to get it done. That experiment, I would say, I'm not saying it's a failed experiment, but I wouldn't call it successful. I know we tried to do it.
Lesson learned.
What?
I would call it a lesson learned.
I just wish that we could pick one street because, we have this tree bonding money to, create a tree canopy, and that hasn't even gotten called. But maybe if we just picked one block and really did it in one block, it would be so important. And what about the parking lot where we got the approval and that just hasn't happened? Because I thought that that would be the company that would come in, figure out how to, cut through the concrete, plant trees, and we haven't, are you guys in charge? Are you working on that project too?
So I have a couple updates. For Grander North Beach plans, there were 3 items at finance that were combined into 3 that will be upcoming at the next or the following FERC meeting. In regard to the parking lot, CIP is leading that, but they just emailed us recently to get the budget code to install the trees, so we're working on that. So it's getting closer on that update as well.
Do you think that will be like next year?
I believe so.
Okay. But, I would really love to see one street, like I said, just one street. Find out how to do it and really do it seriously so that we could at least try to figure out. Wouldn't you like to see some canopy?
I would like to see it everywhere.
Yeah. If we invested in these trees and figured out how to do it and got the vendor, and I think maybe now, David, do we finally have a tree planting vendor the years after we approved the tree project? I just want one vendor who can cut through concrete and plant some trees, because Lindsay's saying it's 100 years to get a canopy. Not 100, but
to get the
meridian effect, that kind of canopy. But I mean, I hear you, and they have to survive hurricanes and all sorts of things, but there has to be some native species that grow quicker.
I'm assuming you're referring to the P63 project.
I am.
Yeah, we do have a contractor that is taking care of all of it, including the landscaping.
Mhm.
That's one of the reasons we've been in communication with environmental, so that we can get the cost code for the trees themselves. And we are ironing out that job order contract so we can move forward.
And this man who we hired to do this, this company that we hired is an expert in cutting through enough so that they have a tree bulb. What did you say that they need under the concrete?
Silvacells or suspended pavement systems.
So there is a detail in the drawings that show exactly what the contractor needs to do. It's following those steps and us making sure that they follow that. That'll provide them the trees with sufficient infrastructure and soil so that they can grow.
And when do you think that you're gonna break ground on this? This past years ago?
We were finishing the JOC review over the last week. So within the next 30 to 60 days, we should have a start.
Okay.
That's making sure, dependent on the JOC pricing fitting in the budget, within the next 30 to 60 days.
What do you mean depending on the job? This was
I
funded.
don't, no, it was, and I have an estimate, but I need to make sure that they fit in that budget.
Okay. But you guys shouldn't have to use GeoBond fund tree money to complete the capital project, because our
It was-
capital project included the trees.
But it used the GEO bond funding for the trees to pay for the trees themselves. That's one of the ways we lowered the overall cost of the project.
And you already know which trees you're planting there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes? And you think they grow quickly, native, create a canopy?
And Commissioner, I think you should rest assured, we have a lot of great examples around the city that when suspended pavements are utilized or silvacells, the trees are doing great and they're providing great canopy. And so the investment is more, but that's how you get the canopy, and that's how the tree roots over time can grow and not be so constricted by the concrete. So we already have great examples of that.
I would say the oaks on First Street look beautiful. It's too bad we're ripping them up. Where are those oaks going, by the way?
I think that's Public Works.
We don't know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Given that trees are expensive, $4,000 a tree, that's a lot of tree money. We should have a plan for those oaks. Jackie? Okay, I'm sorry, but this is really important.
It
Okay.
is, and that's what we're gonna hear
For
at the
me,
end.
planting these trees is super important. Could we have an item, Jackie, to place the oak trees? Do you guys want to work together to find a good spot for these oak trees when we pull them up so that they just don't die?
And we can also look back at the history. I know there were a lot of negotiations that happened as part of First Street to see if there was a developed plan for where the trees would be going, even on a temporary basis.
Because we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars in grand
There's
oaks.
separate item as well. All right, so on to the next item.
The next item is item number 4, discuss take action regarding a potential new Adopt a Storm Drain program. This was sponsored by Commissioner Dominguez and co-sponsored by Commissioner Suarez, and Environmental will be presenting.
Okay, hi, Amy.
Hey, all right, good morning. Amy Knowles, Chief Resilience Officer. I'm pleased to provide an overview of this item. I believe this is your item, Commissioner Dominguez, and also co-sponsored by Commissioner Suarez. So the item directed us to look at a few different things. One, installing educational storm drain markers. Second, looking into a potential Adopt a Storm Drain program for our community, and then potentially merging these concepts. So the memo in front of you provides some background information and a recommendation. Overall, we do support installing 200 markers for storm drains. You know, all of our drains lead to the bay, and the more education we have, the better. There are already markers throughout the city, but it's a good time to reevaluate and update and spread some more. So there are about 200 markers that I believe have been ordered by Public Works, and then they'll be examined for a little time to make sure that they are durable and look good, and then those can be expanded throughout the city. So the markers are a good thing to do, and we can expand those within the current funded amount. Now, in terms of the Adopt a Drain program, there was some information here about the Friends of Biscayne Bay and their desire to create an Adopt a Drain program. I did reach out to that organization, and it is a concept right now. It's not something that's fully developed with funding, but the idea is that someone would adopt a drain. They would be responsible as a resident to either once or twice a month go out and clear around the drain. And they would report that information, and it's really an all-hands-on-deck approach. It doesn't replace what Public Works does. They're already going out, once a year, and in many areas more often, to clean drains and clean out the whole system. But we all know we get a lot of rain, and so, those leaves, the different debris, it adds a lot of pollutants into the system. So they're not quite ready for that program, but there are also 3 examples from around the country. There's one based in actually the Twin Cities, Minnesota, which is a national program, and that is run by a university. And that is a program where you can even name your own storm drain, and you report on the cleaning, and you're given tips and safety information as well. St. Petersburg has a program where they require residents to clean their storm drains around them twice a month, to track it online, and they distribute safety kits like a vest and gloves and rakes and things like that. And Hollywood, Florida, after the huge flooding event in April of 2023, they updated their program where residents fill out a form, they choose a storm drain near them, and they go ahead and clear them, and they submit proof of maintenance, and they actually earn points for that from the city. And they send in photos as well, and that's run by the Public Works Department there. And they do really advise against those in selecting drains that are obviously in busy areas. We don't want people out on Alton Road in an unsafe condition.
Okay, so it looks like, in reading the memo, the city administration supports installing 200 no dumping drains. For right now, no recommendation to move forward on the sponsorship. It costs money to maintain the plaques and just not ready yet. Does this need to go back to the full commission to get approval for the 200, or can you proceed?
We can proceed on that.
Okay, so then we can close this item. When we'll be in communication when the plaques or Adopt a Drain looks like something that we can do in the future, I can bring something back.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, item number 21.
Item number 21 is discuss the capture euthanization of iguanas pursuant to the Iguana Remediation Services Agreement. This item was sponsored by Commissioner Bott, and Facilities will be presenting.
Good morning, Madam Chair, committee members. Elizabeth Muro, Assistant Director for Facilities and Fleet. This item was last discussed on June 11th, and the committee did have two requests in reference to this item. One was to address the iguanas on the waterways and also in the golf courses. So in the waterways, with our iguana contractor, they have found that addressing them directly in the waterways is a little bit inefficient. So instead, they curtail the iguanas on the actual seawalls. Additionally, in terms of the golf courses, we have found that the population has been dramatically reduced there, and so we have addressed our efforts in other hotspots throughout the city. At current, we service about 34 locations, including 20 parks.
Is Commissioner Bott on to talk on her item?
She is.
Yes, I'm here. So there was some discrepancy between what a resident said could be done about iguanas on the waterways and what the vendor said. How did you navigate that? No pun intended.
So what we did with the vendor is that he found that it was very difficult to address the iguanas because of low visibility on the waterways. And I know that, I believe it's Chad? I know that he has a vendor that also addresses it in the waterway, but it's been a little bit difficult. So it's been more effective if we actually do it on the seawalls.
So you switched to the seawall?
Yes.
plan?
Mhm.
Oh, that's great, because they are expanding. I live a block from the bay, and I never saw iguanas in my backyard, and recently, they're like in the interior of the island, which is something we've never seen before. So have you seen a big difference since you started the remediation
Go ahead.
from the bay?
I'm sorry. Good morning, Commissioner. We captured, or our vendor captured 555 iguanas in August alone, with most of the highest numbers, the highest concentrations coming from North Shore Open Space Park and Pine Tree Park in August.
And that's using the budget of $435,000?
That's correct. They have actually eradicated, since March, 2,527 iguanas, just March alone, from
Is
March
that-
to the present.
Is that
To date.
considered significant in the big scheme of iguanas?
Yes.
So-
I mean, up to now, we've eradicated more than 10,000, but just giving you a snapshot. So on a monthly basis, it doesn't, diminish. It's been, like you said, 555 in August, 639 in July.
Okay.
When there are properties that are abandoned or owned but vacant, when I paddleboard and kayak through the waterways in North Beach, I see a lot of properties like this, and they are iguana hotels because it's a great place to hang out. How are you addressing those?
Commissioner, if I may, are you referring to private properties?
Yes,
So
with access along the waterways, though.
the
I mean,
vendor.
you see, families of iguanas hanging out on the seawalls at these uninhabited buildings, and also for that matter, at the dead end of Bonita Drive and street ends that are not as big as like the golf course or a big park, but are urban settings that are very appealing to iguanas because there's nobody there bothering them. So between our street ends throughout North Beach, and I would imagine other places, and the uninhabited buildings that are on the waterway.
So the vendor does not currently service private property unless a private property owner calls them, retains them. We have a City of Miami Beach resident rate that is available to our residents. If I recall correctly, it's $1,500 a year, for 12 months worth of service to your property.
I just wanted to ask a question.
That doesn't address our street ends that abut the bay or Indian Creek. And has there been any outreach to the owners of these vacant properties? Because, if there's a very comfortable nesting ground and breeding ground on a private property, and we're not finding a way to address it, that's just, filling up the cup again.
I don't see why we're not just circling the entire waterway of the city and just plucking them. We're spending $435,000. How many iguanas did we get last year?
I don't have that figure before me, but I can certainly gather that for you.
You said 10,000 total. We've
Well,
been
in
doing it
10,000
several
total
years.
since we started this, for lack of a better word, a blitz. Because initially we had contracted with 4 iguana remediation companies, and then now we have just 1, but notwithstanding, no, we were able to really control the iguana population.
Question, do we have permission if we wanted to, if, let's say that we hired the guys to just go along the waterways? Do we have that permission? Would we be allowed to do that?
Only in private, only in public areas. The concern is if you're, from a contractor, if they're shooting because they use a pellet gun towards a private, property, that
Yeah,
could
but
be a
that's why they're
problem.
doing the waterways. They just have a little hook and they throw them in the water and then they don't swim so well and then they just grab them like that without shooting.
That's something definitely we can explore with him to see if it's viable.
Because let's say, okay, last year alone, let's say you got 2,000 iguanas.
Well,
Right.
2,000 is just from March to the present.
Just one
From
month.
March to the present, it's about 2,000.
Okay. All right. It would be interesting to see how many more you got. I'm glad you adopted the waterfront.
Of course.
Yeah, and I'd like to go back to the issue of how we're addressing our street ends and, little parklets, because that is public property, and we should be figuring out a way to address that as well.
Commissioner, when we get specific reports about areas, city-owned areas that have an uptick in iguana population, we deploy the vendor, to kind of spot check those areas. And that's why, their schedule is flexible in terms of the amount of times they visit different sites, because we do see, seasonal upticks in certain areas versus others.
Well, I will tell you that the dead end at Bonita Drive, on the north side, there's a tree that sort of has its roots in the water, and it is a iguana condo. So there should be some vigilance over there.
Duly noted.
Okay, so we can close this out and move on to item 22.
Okay, item number 22 is the monthly updates on the status of ongoing and future projects involving the use of Leonard Horowitz color palette for Art Deco buildings restoration in collaboration with Barbara Hulanicki. And this was sponsored by Commissioner Rosen Gonzalez, and Facilities and Fleet will be presenting.
Okay, so contained herein, we do have an update on our existing projects. We did publish via a letter to commission the renderings as were requested at the July 9th committee meeting. At current, we have already completed Colony Theater, so we're ahead of schedule with that. And we're in the process still of completing Anchor Garage, which we anticipate will be done by the end of September.
Yeah, I saw the Colony the other day. It looks really good. It just needs the awnings.
Yes, that's a next project that we're bringing in.
Okay.
The awnings, and we're doing the windows.
Okay, and the Washington Avenue, when did you
That's
say
the
it would be?
Anchor Garage. That's still
Mhm.
slated to be completed by September 30th.
Oh, that's great. Okay, it looks beautiful. I think it really makes the Colony pop. Have you gone by and seen it?
Yeah.
It really does make a big difference, but we need to have the awnings up, so thank you.
Great.
Nice, okay, so until next month on that one. Next item, number 5.
Item number 5 is discuss using the portion of log cabin for community pantry with fridge. This item was sponsored by Commissioner Dominguez, and we have housing that will be presenting the item.
Hi, thank you. So a resident, Clive, had reached out and given information, suggestion for use of a fridge and pantry. And Alba, you and I have had many conversations, because I've done food distributions up in North Beach and seen the necessity. I know at one point there was a community fridge that was vandalized and closed, so we're looking for alternate locations. We've tried various churches up there without success, and wanted to hear the viability of this location.
Good morning, Marcela Rubio, Assistant Director, Office of Housing and Community Services. And as you mentioned, we were directed to explore the possibility of opening a community pantry within the log cabin, which is currently at 30% design phase, and expected to be presented at the Historic Preservation Board this month. So in order for this to be realized, we have to consider a few factors. The pantry would require a refrigerator with a dedicated electrical circuit to properly store perishable items, as well as shelving for non-perishable items, and possibly a hand wash station, sanitizer, and signage for in order to be compliant with health standards. In addition, adequate space would be required for a waste receptacle, and in order to maintain food quality at all times. Beyond the infrastructure, there are also staffing that needs to be considered, and possibly security, in order to make sure that there is no more vandalism and no illegal operations within the community pantry.
Are there any grants that can help with any of these costs?
Well, there could possibly be grants, but we were looking for direction to see what the parameters of the community pantry as far as volume would be considered to not only incorporate that into the design of the log cabin, but also consider what funding could be available to potentially fund this.
And I was on the log cabin call recently, and this item was brought up. I felt that it was the residents that were on board, the community, were supportive of that. There was also an uproar on the location that came up, so I know that there's a lot of different factors going on. Commissioner Rosa Gonzalez.
I'm so happy about the log cabin getting built. But we have so many complaints about the homeless population in North Beach, and we're gonna build a log cabin in the middle of the park and then put an open fridge in the center of it. Is that the plan? Because
the
I
fridge would
really
be
don't know
inside.
if that will, so if it's inside the log, I just think that's an invitation to say, come be
And it's
homeless in the
not
park.
homeless,
We're
we have
spending all this.
residents that don't have enough food.
Yeah, but why would we do it in the center of the park? If you want to do this and you want to have a food pantry, why not have these guys have it at a community center? Like, I think that the community I'm just saying that to have an open fridge in the center of the park where we're constantly getting complaints about a homeless population doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me. And it's not that I'm being uncompassionate. I'm just saying our police department is working overtime to try to solve this problem, and I feel like this is
I
an
think you're
invitation to
misguided.
camp.
This is not to feed the homeless, this is something completely
Yes,
different.
but it will feed the homeless. In the
This
middle
is
of a
for
park,
our
in the
residents
dunes.
that are food
I
insecure.
understand, but this is not the place to do this. There has to be a better place. If you want to have a community fridge that people can come and pick up food, I think it needs to be administered from the North Shore Community Center. What is it? It's North Shore
Parking Center?
Yeah, okay, from the hours, you could say, for example, between the hours of 8 and 5, and you can have a space outdoors where people could come and pick up the food, and that way somebody is administering it. But to just have a fridge in the middle of a park, next to the dunes, where we have this criminal element that's hanging out, that's kind of like, hey, come and camp here.
We can agree to disagree, and I'd like to move the item to the full commission so that the
Well,
7 of us can discuss.
I'm not voting for that in
Okay,
the middle
thank
of
you.
a park, so.
Yeah, well, there's
so
an
it fails.
item,
So-
no, it doesn't fail, it goes without a recommendation if it goes to the full commission.
Why
with
don't we
2
just
people.
wait? Okay, all right, fine.
We can't wait because this is in the middle of being designed. And second, Commissioner Bott has an item to move the location, so it's not going to be in the park.
If you move the location, I would support this, but as is, you're asking, do you realize what
We
you're
can agree to
proposing?
disagree. Yes, I'm proposing that the food insecure people in North Beach that have homes but not enough food have access to some.
Okay, well, this makes no sense to me because the
Thank
food
you for the
pantry makes,
feedback.
well, no, why don't you could we just defer it for a month?
What I worry
So that you
is
have a new location?
The design phase of where we're at and not being able to help people in North Beach with this.
Good morning, David Gomez with Capital Improvements. We are scheduled to appear before DRB this week. And it is important to note, as minor correction, it was said HPV earlier. HPV orders are binding, DRB orders are not binding. So the commission has the ability to change those orders should they deem necessary. The addition of a refrigerator and some shelving to the space itself does not alter the design of the building.
That's good news because we could, if we defer this to add a refrigerator to it, that could cost us tens of thousands of dollars.
David, this is
I'm
Tanya.
supportive of a
There has
community fridge. I understand that idea and I am supportive of it. I just think that it should be regulated and not necessarily in the middle of the park. And so, and moving it doesn't really matter, does it? As long as you're in the design phase, does it matter?
It would matter, yes. That's a different that it would require different due diligence and different studies and other additional efforts.
David, I had put in a request that you work to delay this appearance at DRB because we have a lot of unanswered questions regarding the site and the size and the internal design and all those things. Is that something that's
And I did the same. I
being
sent
honest?
a message to the city attorney.
Yeah, and I did pass on that request. I haven't received a response yet.
Okay, listen, as an activist and a resident of North Beach, long before a commissioner, was very, very, very involved in the log cabin debacle. And it is truly a debacle, the way it happened, the way the administration, members of whom are no longer here, told residents and activists one thing and then went ahead and did the complete opposite with no warning, reneging on all kinds of agreed upon conversations. This is something that is very important to a lot of people in North Beach. I know for the rest of the city and possibly staff and colleagues on the commission, they don't get it. It's just a log cabin. Who cares? It's going to be reconstituted in some fashion. You know, get over it. But that's not how the community sees it. At this point, I don't think there is consensus with where it is, what it's going to be used for, and how it should look. The design is lovely. It does not look like the log cabin. And I am not going to support anything that moves it forward in its current iteration without having those conversations fleshed out more fully. And I understand that it's going to take a little bit of time, but we're not getting a second crack at getting our log cabin back. So those conversations need to be had and heard and honored. So I'm very okay with the idea of, in some way, incorporating a fridge if it's not in the park and it can be managed in some way that doesn't, put the facility and its users at risk. I understand that the pantry is not intended for homeless folks, but I also understand the concern that's being raised that if it's sort of nestled into a park that already attracts folks, it may be counterproductive. So I get that. I just think we are moving this forward too quickly without the correct inputs and trying to force fit something into a place and in a configuration that is not quite there yet.
Okay, so I will hold on to this. I'll also make a comment that, if I'm not mistaken, the commissioner that saved the log cabin and sponsored it was Mark Samulin. And it was something that was very passionate for the community and remembering how he always fought for the residents. Okay, so.
Wait, can I just say
Yes.
something about this? Commissioner Bott, I would appeal to you to build it where it is, because this happened in 2018, and here we are in 2026. It has taken us 7, 8 years to get to where we are. We finally have the funding. We finally picked a vendor. We finally have a design. I think, we agreed many years ago to build it in the park, and I'm not saying it's ideal. It is not where the log cabin once was. But to stop this process when we've already finally found somebody who can restore the log cabin is just going to cost us so much money. It just won't get done. I mean,
it will get done. It will get done. And this is not derailing the process. It is doing it thoroughly. And the fact that it was approved in 2018 and hasn't gotten moved until now is not because we've been working that entire time to try to move it. It's because it was just not up in the queue before now. So in fact, it's actually been fairly quick, about, a year, maybe 2, which in government terms is reasonably quick. But so, taking this back to 2018 is not correct. I'm not willing to support moving it, keeping it in the park if the entire community of North Beach is against it. And I think the right thing to do, since we are the elected representatives of residents, is to hear what the community is trying to accomplish and to tweak what we need to do. And maybe we find a compromise. I'm not saying it's all or nothing, but let's have those conversations. Let's find the best path forward and not just do it for the sake of crossing it off the list.
I do think that there needs to be a community meeting face to face on this because I attended the virtual session and I felt like there were a lot of people that were unhappy and angry and nothing got fleshed out from that forum. Are we allowed here to create a resolution to have a face-to-face forum for the log cabin, or would we have to go back to the commission to create that? Or maybe we could.
I think you need to submit it today because the agenda will close later this evening, so get it in.
I mean, I don't need to, we can hold the log
Co-sponsor.
cabin meeting. What?
I would co-sponsor if you put something like that.
I don't think we need to, I don't think we need to take commission direction to hold a city meeting on the log cabin. I think we can initiate that together if we wanted to, but I do think we need to have a face-to-face session.
Yeah, I would join you in supporting
Commissioner
that.
Bott, I hear you. I lament the fact that we finally got to this phase and we're gonna make changes, but I guess that's just par for the course, just cost a lot of money when we move forward and then make these changes. It's expensive.
Okay, so we'll hold on to this item here, and there's more to be done with location and other factors with the log cabin. All right, thank you, and now we'll go to item number 6.
Item number 6 is discuss converting the Bikini Hostel property to permanent affordable housing. This item was sponsored by Commissioner Dominguez and co-sponsored by Commissioner
100%.
Bell. And housing
Okay.
will be present.
Okay, so Mr. O'Hara had sent an email to all of us for consideration. I think a lot of things have changed, but Alba, if you wanted to give a quick update, and then we'll close this out.
Alba Tarre, Office of Housing and Community Services. The approved development agreement. The approved development agreement states that the developer shall close on the property by September 19th and vacate within 14 days and issue certification to the city as such. Within 30 days of closing, they must file a demolition permit and commence demolition on the hostel within 30 days of obtaining the permit. So that's what the current development agreement states today.
Yes.
How many units could you convert in that bikini hostel? Let's say you went in, renovated, that have kitchens, that have bathrooms?
We would need to do a study on it. Right now, as the approved development agreement is for demolition. So we would have to go back in and have a study on it to see what.
I'm not opposed to renovating it and making it like workforce housing for teachers. It would be cute, because it actually does have sizable units, right?
Well, we would need to see what the current structure can hold, and if so, what conditions it's in, so.
How would you feel about making this, referring this to the commission and asking that instead of demolition, if we turned it into workforce housing for, I don't know, teachers, employees in Miami Beach? You think that's?
I mean, it's slated for demolition, so we would have to see the conditions of what the current property is, and at this point.
I mean, it's slated for demolition, not because it's an unsafe structure. It's slated for demolition because we said, okay, demolish, but we don't have to. Maybe what the cost to demolish with a couple $100,000 and we add in a few more $100,000, we could get built housing and just renovate it. It's actually a cute property, isn't it?
There's a couple buildings and some houses that make up the campus for that. I'm happy to move this to the full commission and we can have a discussion about it.
Okay, let's move it to the commission and, what, are we gonna make a recommendation or just to explore the idea of a workforce or affordable housing? I feel like you guys could do that. If we gave you that building and we gave you some cash, you could completely renovate it, manage it. We could have smaller units for, so that we could attract teachers for our school. And it doesn't just have to be teachers. It could be, just any employees of the city of Miami Beach. I would love that. Young police officers who want to live.
Colleagues, I will just remind you that this came up, I proposed this very thing as commission, and it was resoundingly shut down, just so you know.
I think we should, I would like for you guys between now and next week, if you can, see if you can get in there and take a look around and see what it looks like. Just go walk it so you can report to us. I would support you, Commissioner Bai. I'll co-sponsor the item to make this affordable or workforce, depending on how big the units are. I think it's a great idea. It is so expensive to build new, and here we have a structure. It is not an unsafe structure. It is actually kind of cute. It's just had the wrong use all of this time, so it's been a nuisance property. But this, if we added it to our portfolio, cost us really no money. I really think you just need to kind of go in, renovate the bathrooms, paint, and I don't think it's a huge renovation. Over time, you could change windows, change the roof, but I don't even think you need to do that because you have a fully functional property, right? I mean, people are paying to stay there, whether you're homeless or whether you are a hostel resident. It's not like it's not a functioning property.
I don't believe there's kitchens, there's fully operating.
There are kitchens, gas kitchens, believe it or not, gas stoves.
Well, I think we need to go in and take a look, but as of right now, what I can recall from the hostel site, it was being used as a hostel for group boarding. So there may not necessarily be kitchens in specific spaces, but we can take a look at it and.
Can you guys go just take a look? Mm-hmm. All right, take a look between now and I'd be willing to move it forward for something like that. How do you feel, Commissioner?
I do too, and we have public comment.
All right. Tim Carr, if you could please unmute yourself, you have 2 minutes.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. This is Tim Carr, Sobey West Neighborhood Association. I really appreciate the discussion here and the movement of what's going on with this property and this eyesore of our community. And I appreciate you thinking out of the box. The two-story structure, like you said, could definitely be something that's explored for housing options for the community. I do know that's what it was originally. And the roof is in very bad condition right now. It's covered with a blue tarp. But again, I welcome the feedback once you go in and investigate what we could potentially do there. But for the house, the houses that are on the other portion of the property, I would encourage you to consider just tearing those down because they really don't kind of complement the neighborhood, and perhaps consider that site for a neighborhood garden. Because again, I know South of Fifth has a couple of neighborhood gardens, and this would be something good for our neighborhood. And I know Tanya is promoting Blue Zone as well, and this would be another opportunity to build, vegetables and stuff like that for the community right in our own local neighborhood. So that would be my recommendation. Thank you.
So we could send it forward with a recommendation to explore a community garden where the houses are and a possible workforce or affordable housing in the current site, which it was. And I think Tim is fine with that. That would be the recommendation. And I would love to walk it with you guys. Can you reach out to the developer between now and next week? And I would love to go over to the Bikini Hostel and let's just take a walk through. Okay. Commissioner Bott, I invite you to come if you want. You might have to sunshine it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm a co-sponsor. So, Commissioner, you had an item you wanted me to call next?
Yes. So this is for the one-way valet parking program. I do not see Bill here. I see Alberto.
Okay. What item is it here?
So the parking department had.
She needs to read the item. What
Okay.
item is it?
32.
Item number 32 is, give me 1 second. Item number 2 is discuss the development and implementation of a 1-year pilot program for a one-way valet parking service at the Miami Beach Bandshell, utilizing parking lot 106 and such other municipal parking lots as the administration shall determine for vehicle parking and said program to allow events attendees to drop off vehicles at the Bandshell entrance and retrieve their vehicles from parking lot 106 or other designated parking lots at the end of the event. This was sponsored by Commissioner Rosa Gonzalez, and Parking will be presenting the item.
So before I turn it over to you, do you want to be called William, Bill, Will? What's the?
Either Will or William.
Okay.
If possible.
Will, okay. We challenged Will because we know that in North Beach, it has taken us a very long time to build that $100 million parking garage. And I know that the nights that we have Bandshell events, all of the other surrounding businesses have issues finding parking. This is really the only time, according to Will's study that there are parking issues for the businesses in the neighborhood. So this would allow residents to park their car, drop it off at the valet, we'll park it, they pick up their keys on the way out, and they meander through. So, Will, if you want to present this, and we can hear from the Rhythm Foundation too, to see if you're in agreement and you like this idea, because it was very innovative, and I think it solves a problem that we have, and it solves it immediately. So, congratulations.
Yes, Will McDonald, Director of Parking for the City of Miami Beach. Commissioner, so what this is we understand that when there are band shell events, especially during the season, during the busy time, parking in North Beach can be a challenge. Now, we do have a lot of underutilized assets throughout North Beach. However, they are at a bit of a longer distance than most people like to walk. On top of that, because of during turtle season, the lighting isn't. There we go. During turtle season, the lighting isn't always the best, so there may be a sense of I don't want to walk a longer distance without lighting. What this does, it just allows us to have talks with our current provider with valet, First Class, about setting up a one-way valet service that would be able to offer an accommodation for anybody arriving to come see a band shell event, to be able to pull up early, go have dinner, and then at the end of the event, walk out, grab their keys, walk through the New Ocean Terrace, walk north, walk south. I know we mentioned parking lot 106, which is the library lot. And the reason that that was a primary one, because it would allow residents to walk through businesses, whether they wanted to have a glass of wine, a beer, a burger and a milkshake, a Haagen-Dazs ice cream, or any one of the number of amenities or services that the businesses offer after the event. But also through the data of looking at how many actual charges and what the length of time for those charges are inside that lot, we feel that in the immediate term, that lot has some underutilization. And then, however, we are not limiting ourselves to that lot because we understand that there are other opportunities throughout. We understand the Deauville Garage is coming online here within the next several weeks, hopefully. And we can offer a lot of different alternatives for individuals to say, hey, we can park your car here, we can park your car there. But what we want to try to do is just get off the ground of starting to find a way to accommodate more individuals in this area where it is tightly contested on nights that there may be a concert or maybe something.
I have a few questions. So how often are there band shell events? Is it once a week? Is it twice a week?
So I would defer if I
10
could.
times a year? Like, what is it?
Yep.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Adam Benuza from the Rhythm Foundation in Miami Beach Band Shell. We have a busy schedule, and though every single one of those shows is not necessarily going to be sold out, if it will. So, on average, it would probably be something like once or twice a week during
Okay.
season.
And how late do they go? How late do the shows go?
It goes Sunday through Thursday. We close at 10 p.m. and then
Okay.
Friday and Saturday nights is 11 p.m.
Okay, so it sounds to me, my understanding is that we do have residents that park overnight at the library, but that is metered parking until 11, so it wouldn't affect residents because your shows are only until 11. So I think it's non-issue. But anyway, those were my questions. Commissioner?
Yeah, I think it's a win-win. It's a super innovative, forward-thinking parking system. People can prepay their park, and we're going to get good at it because possibly when the Byron Carlisle, if we ever get a shovel in the ground and get that project going, at some point we're going to need valet parking for them too. Also, at the fountain, there is no parking right now, and so, this type of solution is really necessary. Especially as the businesses grow, we see economic development happening. So I'm happy that we heard it here. Was this sufficient enough for us to move this forward?
Yeah, absolutely.
In a positive way?
That was the main concern, if residents
Okay.
were going to be affected, but if the shows are until 11. One other question I had, why the library lot? Why not across the street? Where on 73rd?
Maybe I'll defer that one to you.
Yeah, so the reason that we chose the library lot and not across the street at 73rd is two reasons, really. One, we want to try to minimize the amount of additional foot traffic that we are putting across the street. So for example, when we are valeting the vehicles that are crossing Collins is extremely busy at this time. Two, that is already a prime parking spot. So this is the place where everybody knows to go to park if they are going to North Beach. However, one of the things that we have found is we are looking for underutilization, and the library lot for a few reasons. One, there's not a whole lot of people that go up to 75th, want to make that right in there and go behind the library because they forget about it. It's out of sight, out of mind. So it's kind of outside the area. Also, because of the lighting, and this isn't, because of the lighting, especially during turtle season, that lot can get slightly dark at night. And so there's probably some people that don't feel that comfortable. I want to make it very clear we have had no security or safety issues in that lot in the evening times. I go up there as well, but I'm sure there's a lot of people that probably avoid that and look for either on-street parking. On the library lot on 75th?
Oh.
Because it's right on the beach, it has to have the lower lighting because of turtle season. And so therefore, there are probably some people that avoid it. However, if we maintain certain amount of spaces for valet, then I think there's going to be some people that are going to love the ability to go there, drop off, be right there. And then because of Ocean Terrace, this will give people the opportunity to be able to kind of walk through Ocean Terrace and look at what businesses have to offer between there and the library lot. And I think it'd just be a great opportunity for us to take an amenity that hasn't really been in North Beach and offer.
That's great. Let's move this to the full commission.
Okay, wonderful. I think it's innovative. I look forward to a day when, we have smart parking across the city that's affordable and easy to do. And I'd never really heard about this one-way valet parking before. So thank you for giving us a new smart idea that's also great for our local economy. Thank you.
Okay, number 7.
Thank you.
Okay. Item number 7 is discuss repaving parking lots P18 to P21 and wall painting adjacent to P19 lot at Lincoln Road Mall. This item was sponsored by Commissioner Rosen Gonzalez, and parking will be presented.
Okay, Commissioner.
So as I walk around the city, one of the things that I find very bothersome is that simple maintenance is not being done on any surface lot. So they look old, dirty, there's potholes, the walls, facing the garage are not painted. So I thought, what would it look like if we just went through? Just pave it and clean it up. And it's going to be such a stark contrast that I'd like us to do all of them, because I don't think it's a really huge expense, and you're an enterprise fund, and really it's the face of the city. People are coming to our city center, and I want our parking lots to just look nice. Eventually maybe have a tree or two, but some shade.
I think there are some trees in a few of them. So with this, Commissioner, first things first, I 100% agree. One of the things that I am really focusing on with our partners in facilities is to create not only with I look at our surface lots and our garages in one. They offer the ability for individuals to park their vehicles and, visit the businesses, visit Miami Beach and see what Miami Beach has to offer. So one of the things that we are going to start doing is taking a holistic look at every single lot, every single garage, and create a long-term maintenance plan. So generally, we look out 10 years and have a better understanding of, okay, this lot, what do we need to do with it right now? What does it need to have done every year? So do we need to do a slurry seal, a retard, repaint? What needs to be done in order to keep these serviceable? Because it's a lot easier to maintain something than it is to create something new. As far as these lots, one of the things I'm glad to report that the wall on P19 has already actually been repainted. So we have our own maintenance team in-house. And so these are some of the things that we can move very, very quickly on. As far as the resurfacing, I've already worked with our team member that we have that works inside facilities to reach out to the vendors, because some of these might not require a total resurfacing. We might be able to do a slurry seal and a restriping. Some of these are going to require most likely a complete redevelopment. Now that may trigger some code issues in some of them. So that may That may trigger a complete redesign of a lot, but we can look at that on a lot-by-lot basis. Also, just to make you aware, there are going to be some things that we're going to be looking at that are more sustainable surfaces. So whether that means a concrete surface that would last longer, be a little bit cooler to the businesses around us, because what we don't want to do is create heat islands. Or one of the things I was able to pick up in my time on the West Coast is in Los Angeles, they are using a new coating on top of asphalt that actually it essentially turns it a lighter gray, and so that reduces the heat island effect by about 15 degrees. So the businesses as well as the residences that border these lots would have a savings in their electric bill from having to cool these down, and also would make for a much more pleasant walk through these to not turn them into a heat island. However, we are currently in the process of reaching out to our vendors to make sure we can get some quotes, because I understand there may be some drainage issues on some of these that have exacerbated the problems and put them in the state that they are right now.
Should we just defer until you come up with your entire maintenance plan for everything? Or would you like to try to move forward and do something interesting and innovative with the pavement on this lot, just so we can see what it looks like if we did?
Yeah, so no, I don't want to say, hey, we need to hold off on the entire plan. That's going to be more of a long-term issue. So, however, we are already engaging our vendors to look at these specifically to let us know what it would be each individual one and what steps we can take immediately. Like I said, some of these might just be a resurfacing and it might be very easy. Some of these might be a little bit more extensive, but I think I can come back 60 to 90 days with a plan on what it would look like cost-wise for all of these, and if something that we can recommend to move forward with immediately, or if it's something we need to take a little bit more time on.
Wonderful. Are you okay with extending this for 90 days?
Sure.
I love that. And if you could, like, in 90 days, come through and, show us the map so we can see what we're fixing, what it's going to look like, what it's adjacent to, what the state of the asphalt. Some of it's pretty bad. Have you gone back there and seen it? It's like potholes, and it's terrible. And you know what? As you're doing this, I would price out what would it cost for new signage and speak to communications too, even though that's not a part of this, but I think that there's an item to have new signage for Lincoln Road. So maybe you could just take that in parking, because if you've seen the signs too, a lot of them just like they look worn out and they look tired, and I think just painting the wall, having a new sign, all of it. So 90 days for everything, including signs?
Absolutely.
I mean, the pay-to-park signs look good, okay? So the private sector's signs look great.
Well,
It's
we
only
have-
our signs that don't look so great.
We have a sign shop within the parking division, so we can speak with the communications division, speak with Lincoln Road to see if there's a particular type of branding that we want to do for Lincoln Road
Okay,
parking.
so we'll hear an update in December, and then we'll move on to the next item, number 23.
Commissioner Button.
Laura?
Okay.
Hi, Will, I just wanted to also remind you, I'm sure you're thinking of this as well. I love the idea of reducing the heat island effect. I think that's a great improvement in addition to everything else. But one of the items I've passed over the last year and a half has been about using porous materials in city projects to reduce the flooding effect as well. So I don't know if they're mutually exclusive, or I would imagine there's stuff out there that works together to do both things at once. I just want to make sure that's front of mind as well.
Absolutely, Commissioner. So when we talk about asphalt or new cement, there is actually porous asphalt, porous cement. They do require a little bit more maintenance, but that's obviously part of the investment in not only the sustainability aspect here on Miami Beach, but I can promise you, Commissioner, that is absolutely at the top of my mind.
Great, thank you so much.
Okay, so let's move on to item number 23.
Item number 23 is discuss handicap parking. This item was sponsored by the entire mayor and commission, and parking will be presenting this item.
Okay.
Sorry. So the handicap parking. So Miami Beach currently has one of the most amenable handicap parking programs within the state. So the way that state law reads is that there are two classes of vehicles, or two classes of license plates that receive free parking on any metered area or any garage or any municipal parking lot. And that is DV, that's a disabled veterans plate. That is a plate that is given to a veteran that has been rated as a 100% disability by the Veterans Administration, or a vehicle that has been permanently modified. So this is a vehicle with hand controls or any other permanent modification, i.e. a wheelchair ramp in the vehicle, things of that nature. Then Florida statute also states that anybody with an accessible placard, and that is a blue permanent or a blue placard or a temporary red placard, which is given for 6-month periods, is given the ability to park on any metered on-street parking. Obviously, that's our parallel parking on street for 4 hours. That is state law. What Miami Beach has done is said, we will expand that and say that we will offer free parking in any garage, any lot, or on street to anyone with a placard or with an accessible license plate, as long as they come into the office, they fill out a paperwork, fill out a form, show the placard, register, and then they do not have to re-register until, for example, if their placard is good for 3 years, they will be asked to re-register in 3 years. But all we ask, because Florida happens to be known for receiving fraudulent placards, it is a rampant problem here. The city of Miami Beach says, hey, we'll go farther than Florida statute, and we want to do what's right for the visitors to the community as well as the residents, and we just ask that you come in and register for the duration of the placard.
So your recommendation is to keep the program as is. So does this item need to go back to the full commission so that everyone hears the update?
So I would leave that up to the committee. Our recommendation is to just hold
Let's
in
ask the
place.
city attorney. So does the placard item, he gave us the update, does it need to go back to the full commission or can we close it out? The city's recommendation is to leave it as is.
Oh, you can leave it as is, if you don't
Okay.
want to do anything else.
Okay, so we'll close that out and then go to number 10. Okay, item number 10 is to discuss the city potentially implementing a drone vacation watch program. This was sponsored by Mayor Minor and myself, and we'll get an update from the police.
Good morning. My name is Captain Delvin Brown with the Miami Beach Police Department. So this program was proposed based on what I have here is a memo from Elizabeth Police Department. And it's for a drone watch program. As you all currently know, our vacation watch program requires an officer. Residents are allowed to request a watch order placed on their property if they're on vacation, and we dispatch officers and they check the property throughout the course of their shift. What this item proposes is that drones kind of do the same thing. Unfortunately, Florida law is very, very restrictive right now in regards to what we can do with drones and surveillance. So, due to the legal restrictions, our recommendation is that we hold off on this or explore more ways to come up with policy for transparency based on legal recommendation.
Okay, so I do understand that MBPD does use drones for this specific program, and I also understand that more research needs to be done. And it's currently not permitted under the Florida statute, so let's close this item and go to number 11.
Can I ask for a favor? Can you reopen the log cabin item 1 second so that we can request that the administration hold an in-person meeting?
Absolutely.
Okay. I just
So
want to
reopen
tell
the log
everybody that,
cabin
yeah, we
item
got to
from
keep going on
earlier.
that. It's bothering.
Okay.
Is that okay? So we're reopening it. Please, between now and the next neighborhoods meeting, we would like to hold an additional log cabin meeting someplace in North Beach. It has to be face-to-face, no Zoom, please. And thank you.
Okay.
Okay, item
Item number 11.
Discuss take action regarding enabling the city of Miami Beach to implement the executive order of unleashing American drone dominance. This item was sponsored by Commissioner Dominguez, and police will be presenting.
Okay, and then, doesn't it? I know. So the administration, from what I understand, recommends that Miami Beach Police Department continues to purchase drones. There is a grant that if we turn in 9 drones manufactured in foreign countries, there may be an exchange or something, so you could speak more on that.
Yeah, so I'll provide an update. We are in compliance with this directive. Our previous drones, 9 drones were turned in, and we received 9 additional new drones that are American-made, and we're just in compliance. Our entire fleet is manufactured by American manufacturers.
Okay, that sounds great, and let me see. The next page is a dupe, right, Stephanie? All right, so we'll close that out, and then we will move on to item 12.
Okay, item number 12 is discuss a potential Miami Beach Police Department pilot program for the Grappler Police Bumper, which would allow police officers to safely and effectively bring fleeing suspect vehicles to a stop. This item is sponsored by Commissioner Dominguez, and police will be presenting.
Okay, so my understanding from reading through the paperwork that the administration recommends that we table this for a future budget. So unless you have anything else to add, we'll close this item out, and then in the future, we could bring it back.
Thank you, ma'am. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have anything to say? I mean, I feel.
I mean, there's plenty to say, but I think the biggest issue right now is just getting through our current budget process, and then this is something that we would probably look at for the future and evaluate a little bit more to see if it's cost effective.
The Grappler Police Bumper?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
All right, so we'll close that item and move on to number 13.
Okay, item number 13 is discuss potentially installing additional cameras and leveraging technologies along the beach walk. This item was sponsored by Commissioner Rosen Gonzalez, and police will be presenting the item.
I'm not a fan of the surveillance state. I'm really not. But I will say that we know that we have criminals embedded in the dunes. They're literally coming in and out of the jail system, and they're going straight into our dunes. So, given the fact that we have those cameras there, and we now got the Fusus software, how are we going to somehow send an alert when we see some sort of behavior that we see, like, if you see like an aggressive behavior, somebody grabbing a suitcase or smacking, can we leverage the technology? Where are we in that? And I'm interested to hear what you have to say.
All right, Delvin Brown, Captain Delvin Brown here again from the Miami Beach Police Department, Tech Services. So in relation to your question, the ingestion of Fusus is something that was just recently passed in June, if I'm not mistaken. So we're in the procurement process of actually acquiring the software. Eventually, once we have it, and this will segue into something later on if it's called, we have to work strongly with IT and collaboration to make sure that our systems ingest all the data, all right? So although we get all of these live feeds and things like that, we have to make sure that we have the support to be able to monitor it and what it actually does. So that's one thing. As far as this actual item is concerned, the update as far as the project for the CCTVs along the boardwalk is it's ongoing and is supposed to be, fully operational to some degree by fall of 2026.
So wait, you mean integrating the feed by this fall?
No. The feed.
Toward next year,
Okay.
I'm
So
not
two
understanding.
things. So you asked about Fusus.
Yeah,
We
so
don't-
you're
it's
getting
on the way.
Fusus
We
now.
don't have it yet.
And
It's
then when
on the
you're
way.
saying work with IT, you mean work with the experts at Fusus to explain to them what our needs are so that they can then program the software.
In theory,
to
and
meet
also
our
with
needs?
our city IT department as well, to make sure that we have the infrastructure because Fusus as a platform, we're able to utilize, but that comes with a variety of features. But once we have it, we'll be able to see what we can and can't do, what our limitations are. Because a lot of this stuff is based on servers, storage capacity, how we're watching it in real time versus recording live and capturing the data. So that's
Did we build when we built the intelligence center, did we make space for servers that we might need to purchase? Obviously, no, we did.
We did, but
Yeah, it's always going to evolve, and it's something that has to be revisited and constantly monitored as to what the current needs are. So what we like to do in the police department is be very, very judicious in our approach about what we acquire now, because it could change in 2 or 3 years based on the community's needs. Want to come back? Thank you. You want to come back in 6 months and get an update? Sure. On where we are?
Okay.
6 months, update on FUSIS and the integration?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. The next item is item number 26, monthly update on efficiency and enhanced enforcement related to excessive vehicular noise. This item is sponsored by Commissioner Dominguez, and police will be presenting this item.
Good afternoon again, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Major Jovan Campbell, Miami Beach Police Department, here to discuss this item. So at the direction of the commission, we started a detail on June 27th to start focusing more on loud noise coming from vehicles, whether that be mufflers, loud exhaust, excessive use of horn, particularly at the during the night hours because of the complaints from the residents. So what we do now is we have our shift commanders assign officers at each area of the city between 9:30 at night and 2 o'clock in the morning, focusing on the 5th Street corridor, 41st Street corridor, the Collins Avenue corridor between 43rd and 63rd Street, as well as 71st Street. And I was told that stats were provided to you all, but
I got them here.
you have them. For your convenience, I can also share them with you so that you can see the substantial increase of citations that were issued. In June, we issued 36 citations, and in July, we issued 134 citations. For the year from January 1st through the end of July, we're at 344. So it's a significant increase. To be exact, 332% increase from May 2025 compared from where we were at in June of 2025. I'm sorry, this is a 272% increase from June 2025 and a 332% increase for May of 2025.
Some residents have asked if it's helpful to have signage saying resident zone, quiet zone. How do you feel about that? Will that make a difference? Will people pay attention?
Based on 30 years' experience, I don't know if additional signage is going to help us. It may help neighbors be more neighborly, but the majority of the people that we're seeing that are committing these offenses are either people that don't live in our city or people that are here as tourists or passing through. So I think the Florida statutes that are already in place and the things that we've been enforcing is going to get us better results in the long run, but we're open to any kind of suggestion that might get residents who live in the city to be more compliant.
Okay. I'll leave it on so that we can hear an update again, because now residents are starting to come back, and they were the ones that were really complaining about it. Did you have more?
Yes, ma'am. I just wanted to take an opportunity through the chair to commend Major Campbell and on his leadership on this item, because as the patrol major, he's tasked with, a myriad of different competing priorities, and he has to redirect the workforce on a consistent basis. So based on his leadership, we're seeing the results that we're seeing here and the hard work of the men and women that are on the street every day. So I just want to take the opportunity to thank him and commend him publicly.
Thank you. Really appreciate that. Commissioner Rosa Gonzalez.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's a huge increase. Good, because we want to change that behavior. I just had one question. What happened to the noise monitors that we were going to have that were going to issue a violation automatically? Did we ever install one? Where is it? How's it doing?
So my understanding of that project is it was a test to see if the technology itself was effective, and then we needed to overcome the next hurdle. If we found the technology was effective, then we needed to overcome a state statute that would enable us to be able to use those cameras for that enforcement. I don't believe we're there yet. So I think that the information we got from the test of the cameras themselves was mixed. A lot of times if we had trucks that were just loud in nature, going by, it would alert for loud noise. There was also difficulty in determining which particular vehicle was generating the loud noise because of volume of traffic sometimes and things like that. So there's some technology challenges that we need to overcome, and then if we're able to find good technology, then we need the state statute to enable us to use cameras for that.
So see, we still need human beings. Unfortunately, it's true. That's great. I would love to see that enforcement south of 5th and Collins Avenue, especially when those loud cars go by, the sound travels up into those condominiums, and we get so many complaints. So thank you. By the way, most of the citations that you issued, was there a particular place in the city where you issued more than any other place, or?
I could find that out for you, Commissioner. I don't have that specific.
So the areas we're specifically focusing on for this initiative is, you know, 5th Street, south of 5th, Mid-Beach, 41st Street, Collins Avenue corridor, so it's that 43rd Street to 63rd Street area of Collins, and then North Beach along 71st Street, which is when we've gotten the most complaints.
I'm sorry if I misunderstood your question, because I had previously stated that. I thought you was asking for more.
No, I just wanted to know where you got the most people. Were there more people on 5th Street? Was it Collins Avenue? Like, where do you think, where were the noisiest?
I can tell you that I believe that it's Collins Avenue, because it's the, you know, larger area, and then, you know.
And these were like the people cranking it and drag racing and
Right.
stuff like that.
So-
Good.
I would guess, if you will, Collins Avenue corridor as well as the 5th Street because of the people that's coming off of MacArthur.
Thank you. Please keep this up.
Thank you. Appreciate the support.
Next item.
Okay. Item number 24 is discuss enhancing public safety through technology and community partnership. This item was sponsored by Commissioner Dominguez, and police will be presenting the item.
Good afternoon. Delvin Brown, Captain, Miami Beach Police Department, Tech Services. So this was,
I think this item came as a result of a meeting I had with the Venetian Islands president. He's here too. I know that we are looking to deploy, if we haven't already, a decoy police office, a car. So you can.
so yeah, so with the Venetian Homeowners Association, we've been in partnership, if you will. Yeah, you're welcome. To explore different options of, as far as leveraging technology, what we have as the Real-Time Information Center, as well as what some of the communities want to provide their residents with additional security features, if you will. So based on our partnership, we recommend that moving forward, that whenever we enter partnerships like this, that we have more like an itemized, I guess, prescription, if you will, of what they should have as far as needs and capabilities to assist us, if that makes sense.
Yes, so I met with, based on the last committee meeting, I met with Major Garcia, who was very helpful. We went through and planned out, so we're gonna add fixed and PTZ cameras that will connect to the Arctic. Yeah, it's a little bit of a test and see because of LTE coverage and, you know, all those pieces. But we're excited about it and appreciate the police department's support in helping us. On the topic of the decoy cars, the LED decoy cars, you know, the camera systems have worked, or the LPR systems that we have worked really well for helping with your investigations. I don't have the stats in front of me. It was something like we were around 15 or 20% arrest rate for major crimes, and now we're at 80 so far this year. You've used the LPR systems quite a bit, and we thank you for that. We saw you know, within 10 minutes of a major crime, you know, they're using them. So that was a big piece that, you know, quite honestly, we were concerned about would these tools be used? And the police department is definitely has shown us that they will use them. So we're excited about adding the live view cameras. We understand that they won't be able to watch them, you know, like a security guard, that they'll be used when there's a call for service or for investigations because they're also recording. And then we, of course, in a related item, we hope that in the future that AI technology will help us make it where it's more preventative as well as helping with arrests.
A question, just informational. The license plate readers that you guys installed on the Venetian, that information goes, so you installed the LPRs and then the information goes directly to you? And is one of the reasons why we want the Fusus software, because we want everything integrated into one screen type situation?
Yes, ma'am. So again, this, the program that we have with the Venetian Islands, so the committee understands is, as a city or as an administration, it's very hard for us to absorb all of the costs that's associated with, again, the cameras, the LPRs, the different needs. So through this, when the associations are able to get their choice of whatever software, because we don't want to endorse one particular brand or anything like that. Once they have their items and they share those fees with us, we're able to, enforce certain things. And sometimes, again, it's reactive, sometimes it's preventative, and we do both. We also deploy our resources, meaning LPR trailers, mobile trailers, in conjunction with whatever it is the association has. So moving forward, eventually we want to be able to offer this to other neighborhoods throughout the city.
Great. I got really excited about this and I tried to sell it to all these other neighborhoods and they didn't seem so excited. They still wanted a security guard and a guardhouse, which I understand too, because it adds an extra layer.
Yeah, I think it's one tool in a broader toolbox, right? So we have, we need the police, actual physical presence there. I think these LED koi cars are great. I can't really tell the difference. So putting.
They're great. They bought them. They're a real presence in the neighborhood. So
having LPRs, having live view cameras, it's and having roving security can help too. And of course making sure people lock their car doors, lock their houses, use alarm services, have good lighting. I think all those things add up to a safer neighborhood. And so it's just about picking all the different tools and trying to build a good plethora of them in your neighborhood.
Right. Okay, so I'm going to close out this item. I do want to say thank you to MBPD, the team, the men and women that go above and beyond, the level of service and the meetings and the extra mile by meeting with individual neighborhood association residents. It's like a concierge. I mean, you guys are and women are so incredible with what you do. Thank you for that. And thank you to the neighborhood associations that step up to the plate. So, but MBPD, thank you.
Thank you for the support.
Thank you.
thanks for the help with the iguanas too.
Okay, number
Seriously,
25.
we upped our game.
Item number 25 is exploration leveraging technology in neighborhoods experiencing high levels of burglaries and auto thefts, and discuss the best structure to implement technology-centered security. This item was sponsored by Commissioner Rosen Gonzalez and co-sponsored by Commissioner Bott, and police will be presenting.
Wow. I think we were just there. It's kind of the same item. So I guess we can close it up. But what I would like to do is, given the success of the Venetian Islands, how can the police department play a role in communicating this with neighborhoods that are constantly calling you and saying, hey, we're being burgled, we're being broken into. I'm on, I don't know how many chats with upset residents. And I feel like maybe they should just install the LPRs. And if they don't want to install them, and we know that they work so well, that it's a city street, why don't we just install them if they're working so well?
Well, through the chair, Assistant Chief Morgallo for the Police Department. We have such unique geography as the city of Miami Beach that we're an island. So we have very robust LPR capabilities on the city side. And it's been extremely effective for us over the last decade to, number one, detect vehicles that shouldn't be in our city, robbery vehicles, stolen vehicles. And from an investigative perspective, when we have a crime committed, our detectives can use that data and our CCTV cameras to go back and solve crimes that other cities wouldn't be able to solve. So any opportunity we have to speak about the successes that we've seen from technology as a department And going further, the public-private collaboration and the success we've had with this Venetian one, we're happy to do it. We're probably going to start doing something like that through the Community Affairs Unit when we have these different neighborhood association meetings and things like that. And we're always open to having a discussion with any neighborhood association that you know, wants to find out about it, wants to hear about it, wants to see the results of what we've seen with Venetian.
Would you guys consider holding a public meeting and inviting these different neighborhood associations so we could have an open forum, discuss it? Because we do have LPRs on 195, right? Obviously, the Venetian is different because it's an entrance, you know, to the island. Are we getting the constant feed from 195 on LPRs or not really?
Yes, we are. But so to hold a public forum is one thing, but again, the individual needs of each association are going to vary. So what we encourage is contact us. We'll come out. We'll give you an assessment and some recommendations because the needs of the Venetian Association may not meet, you know, another community. So again, we don't want people to overinvest in certain things that we're not able to provide support with. And this is all rapidly evolving.
I think even just having a meeting just to say that.
Okay.
You know, like having the police department say, you know, we're concerned about your neighborhood. We have some technological tools, okay, and this is how we, you know, think it should work. And then just talk about them, and then you can, you know, if the neighborhoods are interested, you can come out, because in the interim, we're going through this long political process to try to close off neighborhoods, which is going to take many years and might not ever potentially get done or could. But we have these other solutions, and it might make everybody's life a lot easier, right?
Yeah.
You know, because I think, and it's really mostly the single-family home neighborhoods that are complaining about the break-ins, correct? It's not necessarily multifamily.
Well, thankfully, our burglaries are down and our auto thefts are down, where earlier this year we had a spike in auto thefts. So I'm very proud of the fact that our officers on the street and our leadership in the department have been very responsive and come up with great strategies to deal with those issues. But obviously, we want to promote neighborhoods that are safe, and if the residents don't feel safe, whether that's based on, you know, perception or word of mouth or things like that, we want to do everything we can to mitigate that. So anything we can do to help residents and visitors to our city feel safer, we're willing to do it.
Would you guys be willing, if we held a meeting, this is how I envision it, to have your community resource officers from all the different, from South Beach, Mid Beach, North Beach, available, like with their phone numbers to talk to people, and then explain, you know, you invite the heads of the associations and they could or could not choose to attend? That would be my direction that I'd like to. I don't know if my office, I would rather pass a policy. Would you rather me pass the full policy to do this? Can I do this at this level, Rob? I'm not sure.
I'm sorry, repeat that?
That's why they only called you kind of cool, Rob. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. I think pretty cool, though. Sort of cool. Okay, Rob, if I wanted to give direction right now so that we could hold a community meeting with the different neighborhood associations and have the police resource officers there to discuss technologies that neighborhoods could use to organize, can we do that at this level, or do I have to pass that back to the commission? It's just a neighborhood meeting.
You can set a sunshine meeting yourself with anyone else you want, but if you want it to be a city-sponsored
Yes, I want it
community
to be a
meeting,
city-sponsored
then, yeah,
meeting
you would
with the police. What?
send it back to the city commission with a recommendation to ask the administration to have such a meeting.
Okay, so are you guys okay with that? Because I don't want to intrude
Again, I don't
too
want to
much.
speak on behalf of the chief, but we're always open to whatever kind of meetings the city wants us to attend. It's part of our job to educate the community and to explain, you know, how responsive and receptive we are. So I'm sure we'll be open to it, absolutely.
The other option is if the administration is willing to do something that you're, as a commissioner, requesting to do, and there isn't any further action needed by the city or the commission, then you don't need to
Well, no,
send it
because there
back.
could be something coming out of this, because neighborhoods could choose to install the LPRs. I want to have like a community conversation, see who's interested, have the meeting and come back. I would move this to the full commission, that the police department, work with the administration to invite the neighborhood associations and residents to a community meeting to explore latest policing technologies in single-family neighborhoods. And also meet your community, like, resource officer, so that they can get somebody's phone number, so they know who to call, and they don't have to call the general number. Would that be okay?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I want to check public comment, because I know Tim Carr had wanted to speak on item 26. I want to see if he's on there, and while MVPD is here.
Okay. Tim Carr, if you can please unmute yourself. He's on, but he just hasn't unmuted himself. Oh, there we go. Tim, you're muted.
Are you okay with my motion?
I have another public comment. Larry Schaefer, you have 2 minutes. If you could please unmute yourself.
Hi, it's Larry Schaefer, 233 First Street. Just calling to say that we had squatters move in to 2 properties that are right next to us, one to the west and then one right behind us, meaning both properties that we share a property line with had squatters within the last 12 months, I believe. And we would just ask for anything you can do, what technology can be here for eyes and ears to see things, because we're not feeling the law and order love up here. You know, it's not a good time up here. We have drug dealing around Crespi, the Tatum Park, and you know, you guys are trying hard, but I don't know what to do about these squatters. We also have a development site south on the next block where we had squatters as well. So maybe anyone can address that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay,
Is
so.
Tim Carr still on?
He is still on.
Can we try him again?
Yes. Tim Carr, you could please unmute yourself. His name's on, but he's not unmuting.
Okay, so while we wait and see if he unmutes, Commissioner Rosen Gonzalez, did you have other comments?
No, just to move it to the full commission, I guess,
Okay.
to create this community meeting in conjunction with the police department. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
We'll try him one more
Okay.
time.
All right, so then we'll move on to number 27.
Okay. Item number 27 is discuss, take action regarding the city's procurement requirements for contractors and vendors and their impacts on project cost. This item is sponsored by Commissioner Dominguez, and procurement will be sponsoring.
So the reason for this item is that we often put things out for procurement, and we don't get people that sign up and bid for projects, and if we do, it's very, very few. So I started looking at all of the hoops that different organizations need to jump through to even apply to be part of the procurement process. So what I would like to do is for you and I to have a meeting and go through the different items so that I can bring stuff to the commission to eliminate, enhance, make better, so that we can streamline and improve the procurement process. Because as it is now, it costs businesses that want to bid on projects way more. And I know we're not the private sector, we're the public sector, so there's different things. But when I looked at some of the criteria that we had, it was, there were things on there that I don't think are appropriate and need revisiting. Do you have any comments about that further? And if not, we'll schedule a meeting, you
We
and I,
can-
and then bring this back.
That works, absolutely. The memo does have some items for consideration, but we can go ahead and discuss those and come back.
That's what I would like to do. Okay, so we'll bring this back, let's say, let's say in 1 month, and then if we need more time, we can do that. But thank you, Christie.
No problem.
Commissioner?
Yeah, could you add me as a co-sponsor on this item? I would love to make it easier to get better prices. I'm sure you know what the restrictions, this is a long memo. I have not.
There's a few items
You don't
on
wanna-
here suggested, mostly administrative things that we can do. There's also an item that was sponsored by Commissioner Magazine regarding, that he took on September 3rd, regarding some work that the county is doing, for us to kind of follow that and then come back with an LTC after the county's completed their
task force revisions. So I looked into a few things that we can streamline, and there are delineated in the memo. Some are just process that we can streamline to make things easier for the vendors and hopefully get more vendor participation.
So why don't we do this so that we don't stall stuff? I'll still keep this. Can we do dual? Can we keep it and also move it to the full commission? Or do you need it to move to the full commission to streamline your existing items?
I don't think anything on here per se would require their approval. There was one recommendation, which is more of a practice that has been in place. It's not anything that's governed by code. And it's that we take RFPs, requests for proposals, invitations to negotiate, and requests for qualifications to commission prior to issuing. Whereas for invitations to bid, we issue them. So it's just a process and it's been a practice, but it's not something that is governed by code. So that was one of the items that was being recommended. That is not necessarily something that's in code, but it's been a practice that the commission has been used to, so.
So some of the things that you mentioned in the memo that you could streamline, do you want to go over them?
We can.
Quickly? And then, if my colleague agrees, we'll have you move forward with that, and then we'll have meetings with you to see if there's anything else we can uncover.
So the first one is the one I just mentioned about us being able to issue requests for proposals or invitations to negotiate or requests for qualifications. We would come back with the award like we normally do for invitation to bid, but it wouldn't require your prior approval to issue the solicitation.
Can I ask a question? Sure. Having to get the permission to do the RFP, does that add a lot more time onto any?
What it adds is the time to wait for the next commission to be able to take the solicitation and put it out on the street. Whereas if we didn't have to, we can just issue it. And maybe there's a meeting ground, maybe we release it to you all via LTC. There is the cone of silence, which also lets you know what solicitations are out on the street. And that is released once a month with any solicitations.
How do other municipalities do this?
So the county does not go to commission for approval to issue, and I believe the city of Miami either. I've been trying to schedule some time with the county, but I've struggled a little bit because I think they're very preoccupied with the task force. So, but they definitely do not.
And Rob, are there any unintended consequences to make that streamlined revision?
No, not that I can think of.
Okay, so that sounds like a good one. Okay.
The next one, we conduct every 2 years surveys, internal customer surveys, and then also to the vendor community. The results were positive. We did it in 2024. And some of the recommendations that came from there was for us to look at incorporating some efficiencies regarding electronic payments. So I've spoken with the finance department. They believe there's some abilities there to improve payment processing for vendors. So I can continue to work with them and make sure that that's something that hopefully comes to fruition and can help some of the smaller vendors that, to get paid faster and things like that. So help increase the vendor participation in our solicitations also
Okay,
at the
and
end.
so that's not anything we need to go back to the full
No, ma'am.
commission? You can implement, I think that is wonderful.
Correct,
Okay, what else?
The next one is something we can do internally. The procurement department is to consolidate any forms that we have and also create a checklist for the solicitation. Because it is sometimes cumbersome, what they need to fill out, what they need to submit, we can go ahead and add some checklists to the front of the solicitation document to help facilitate that. That's something we can handle internally also.
Okay, that's wonderful.
The next one, these are all related to the vendor survey. The last one within the vendor survey is a vendor day. So this is where we'll make ourselves available. We can also have other city departments there, but to help guide them through the procurement process, what they need to do in anticipation of a solicitation that might be coming out, and also give them information related to anything that might be on the street regarding the code of silence, and, help them with rules and guidelines that we all have to abide by. And that's something, again, that we look forward to doing and we can handle internally.
Okay.
What's the biggest complaint you get from vendors about our process?
So these were some of the three that I'm kind of highlighting were some of the major complaints that I felt we can address. Another one, which is further down, was regarding the permitting, but my plan there, it's not a bad, my plan there is to help promote, because I don't know that they're aware that there's a city-managed project permit expedite program. So one of our, and this is something that we can do in-house, the procurement department, is to promote that program so that they understand there is an expedited program for city projects, and hopefully help engage more vendors in our procurements so that they understand that there is an easier way to get this done.
And with every restriction and prohibition, it affects the price.
Absolutely,
And that affects
yeah.
what the taxpayers are ultimately
Correct.
helping foot the bill here. And many times contractors, businesses, they won't bid on a project. And with less people bidding, we're limited and we're paying more. So this is really critical. So thank you. Let's go ahead and implement the things that you recommended.
Perfect.
And I will keep this on here so that you and I can have a separate meeting and talk about other things that we can do that I can bring forward to commission.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so item 29.
Item number 29 is discuss the activation of alleys in South Beach, Art Deco Designs, North Beach, and Mimo Signs. This item was sponsored by Commissioner Bott, and Public Works will be presenting.
Good afternoon, Commissioner.
Is that Tim? Oh, Bot, okay. Hi, how you doing?
Good. So we have this item that was brought before us, and we went through the process of looking at the alleys and looking at what the intent was from the item. And originally it talked about pedestrian access in the alleys, and we do have to keep in mind these alleys are essential to the businesses that use them. Ocean Court was one that was brought up in particular that we did look at. These alleys are there so that the businesses can keep the fronts of their businesses clear of trash cans and dumpsters and things like that. But we also realize that pedestrians do use these alleys, and they are kind of an attraction in some way, especially Ocean Court, to the pedestrian traffic. What we did is we looked at our previous assessments of the condition of the pavement, in particular Ocean Court. Every 5 years, we do a pavement management condition assessment on all of our roadways. And it's a very intense process where they map every crack within the road and they assign a grade to the roadway. And we try to prioritize our resurfacing based on the scores. So this particular alley did not score terribly low. It was actually pretty good. Was resurfaced 10 years ago. Asphalt resurfacing typically takes place between 15 and 20 years depending on the traffic volumes. We did, however, see some deficiencies in the alley, in particular drainage. Nothing can make an alley look more dirty than standing water. Most of these alleys have an inverted crown, which means rather than being a rounded roadway surface, it's actually a V with a valley gutter in the middle, and the water then flows north and south to the side streets. There are some repairs that need to be made to the valley gutters, which would restore positive drainage. And we also see some asphalt patches that need to be done. So we're going to go back there and saw cut and patch the asphalt, replace the valley gutters in that particular alley, and coordinate with FP&L because lighting was brought up. This is going to be an effort between the actual property owners, FP&L, and the city, depending on what type of lighting we're looking at. And with that said, I'm happy to answer any questions. We also do intend to move to mechanized street sweeping back there. Currently, we use actual employees with blowers and different tools to clean the alleys every morning in that area. We would like to go to mechanized street sweeping, and we'll be making that change fairly soon, we hope, so.
Okay, Commissioner Bott is the sponsor. Did she have anything to add?
Yes, quite a few things. John, welcome. I think this is the first time you've presented on one of my items, so thank you. And I know this is an inherited item. So I appreciate the comments on this particular alleyway, and that's great. But I've got sort of bigger concerns. I'm less concerned about the pavement in the alleys, and this is citywide, and much more concerned about the lighting for safety reasons and the standing water. It stinks. These alleys are fetid and disgusting. I was walking to the micromobility town hall yesterday and had to literally cross into the middle of the street on 10th Street because the water coming out of the alley, I don't know who had cleaned what or whatever, but it was just like was this viscous, cartoonish black water that was disgusting. And it was so wide that you couldn't just step over. You had to go out into the street to navigate it. So I think there needs to be an assessment citywide of the drainage issues, or lack thereof, of the alleys. I understand that they are not connected to drainage now. There's a major, miscalculation 125 years ago, but that's where we are. How do we fix that citywide? And in rank of priority, what needs it the most? What's the most heavily trafficked? What has the most egregious drainage issues? And how do we ensure that these things are lit up properly? I know that there are instances where we've had homeless folks literally bring town furniture and set up a little home in some of the, not a home, like a lounge area in one of the alleys behind Ocean Drive. Repeatedly, it would get demolished or just taken apart, and then a few weeks later, they come back and do it again. So these alleys need to not only be able to be circumnavigated by the services that need them, as you mentioned, but they also need to be made more appealing for people to use them, to have people ride bikes down them as alternate paths to some of the more heavily trafficked roads. Because in doing so, those alleys then become safer in general, right? If you've got more eyes on the street, more people using the alleys, they get better care, and less nefarious doing happening. So that, I really want this to be a citywide effort, not just one alley, one block of one alley. I'm very interested, I think Commissioner Fernandez is a sponsor of the item, to take some of the alleys that are parallel to very challenging streets and make them very user-friendly for micro-mobility and cyclists. And so that is something we need to take a good hard look. We don't have a lot of room to build new bike lanes, and we've got issues with the state and the county who are trying to limit what we can do where on our roadways. So this is going to be a forward-looking project. The one thing that I don't see addressed here at all, and it's not mission critical, but as we go through and work with property owners and business organizations, I think there are opportunities to potentially upgrade the aesthetics by not just having another boring FPL sign, but maybe have or light posts, but maybe also incorporate neon lights that reflect the character of the neighborhood, right? So not tasteless and overbearing, but something that brings the character of place into the alley. The front of the building is Ocean Drive, the back of the building should have some flavor as well. So I would like to keep this item here and have you guys come back in a couple of months with some ideas of how to implement a broader strategy on this and how to prioritize it and what the funding situation is, so that we can tackle the most mission critical alleys in South Beach and in North Beach as soon as possible, rather than letting it fade off into the ether.
Okay, that sounds good. Commissioner Rosa Gonzalez?
Tanya, Commissioner Bott, this is a great item. I mean, it's really not that much fun or exciting to talk about the alleys, but it could be. He has, and you did a great job on this, by the way. So you're saying $50,000 per alley to get new lighting, fix the drainage, and fix any potholes, because some of them are really gross, right?
So that number was for resurfacing, and that resurfacing would include replacing the valley gutter and restoring positive drainage. And that is one of the most important parts, is the drainage. If you fix the drainage, you fix the deterioration of the asphalt, makes it last longer. But it is a balance between spending the resurfacing money on alleys, which are service alleys, which have trash trucks going up and down them, and keeping our residential streets resurfaced on a regular basis. So that is why we do the assessment of the roadways. We have a score assigned to every roadway so that we can say this one's in worse shape than this one without, it's less subjective, I guess.
Do you need funding from us to do this first alley, the $50,000? Do we need to refer this to the commission with an ask to fund the $50,000 to fix this first alley?
We could probably fit this within the resurfacing program and do it as a pilot type program, but I think we do need to look at the alleys more holistically and balance those with the residential roadways and figure out how we don't want to spend all our money resurfacing alleys, which by nature are going to get torn up quicker with the heavy truck traffic, and then not spend what we need to on the residential roadways and arterials, so.
I see what you're saying. Okay, but this one alley you're going to fix?
This one, we can. My proposal was to go in there and make repairs to the drainage by replacing the valley gutter and fixing the asphalt, since this was just resurfaced 10 years ago. It's technically not due for resurfacing. However, at commission's direction, if we wanted to completely resurface this alley, we certainly could.
So this is the alley where the orb is, where the big, and the Betsy alley? And it's going to cost $50,000, and they're going to put in some money too for beautification purposes, or no?
No, I'm not aware of
Because I
it.
thought you said. Okay, I mean, look, I'm okay with this. I think it's a great idea. I would love to be a co-sponsor of this too, because I do think the alleys are something interesting to transform. You're looking at them from a purely utilitarian perspective, but I do think there's a way to make them a little bit nicer, but they're not. I mean, they're full of trash cans and cables, and you're right.
I'm trying to think outside the box.
I
but-
know. Well, that's, I mean, but that, I think, is why you need a whole plan for the alleys. I mean, is there some alleys that you think that you could transform into something cool? Commissioner Bott, you should walk the alleys. I don't know if she's on or she can hear me.
No, I am on. I have walked the alleys.
You should walk these alleys and pick one and just do it up, apart from this one, because this one is adjacent to the alley that the Betsy did. But in addition to this, you should probably just, pick one and really go for it and, do lighting and signs.
Yeah, Jay Fink and Brad Kane and I did walk a number of alleys, and that's what led to where we are now. So, John, I'd like to work with you further on this. I think there's a real opportunity to look holistically and bigger picture on the alleys. As I mentioned, the more we can do to make them safe for pedestrians and an alternate path for micromobility and regular bicycles, the better off we'll be. And I think, if we put our heads together with transportation and maybe even with parking, I'm not sure, but I think there are opportunities to go much bigger in terms of impact with not a much bigger cost. I think talking about how things get painted and what kind of font we use and all those kinds of things can really be transformative, because it's not just this one specific issue that we're trying to address. It is an opportunity to address multiple different issues via this item. So I'll work with you offline, but I would like us to come back in a few months with some bigger picture recommendations as you go ahead and use this as a pilot program.
I look forward to seeing your first alley vision and having a party in the alley. I think you really could activate some of these alleys. So, all right, that's really great stuff. So, our motion on this, Commissioner Bott, would you like to continue to work on this and we will hear it again in 60 days? Do you need 90 days?
I'll defer to John, but I would like for him to start work on this within his existing budget and then come back and discuss the potential for bigger opportunities.
Yeah, I'd like to defer for 90 days. That way we can actually get in the alleys and do some inspections and come back. I'll have time to meet with you and prioritize which alleys we're talking about.
Great, so that's my motion, 90 days, and we'll check back to see what's happening in the alleys of South Beach.
Great.
Okay, any public comment?
No public comment at this time?
Move on. Okay, and I know that I got a text.
Just one thing, it's not just South Beach, it's South Beach and North Beach.
Okay. So moving on, I know that we are deferring 31 and 17 because Commissioner Fernandez will not be coming. So with that, we'll go to number 30.
Item number 30 is discuss the beautification of sidewalks on Collins Avenue with mosaic design, landscaping, and decorative uplighting. This item was sponsored by Commissioner Rosa Gonzalez, and Public Works will be presenting.
Good afternoon again. So this item is to beautify the sidewalks on Collins, which Collins Avenue is a state road, so it does limit our ability to do those upgrades without an agreement with FDOT. That agreement with FDOT would include the city paying for all the upgrades and maintaining them in perpetuity. So because of that, we don't recommend it just due to the high cost to make the improvements that were proposed. We were looking at over $3 million to do stamped concrete along Collins from 5th to 15th.
Question, was there any geo bond funding for this, or would this have to come out of the general fund? Isn't there beautification money or tourism dollars? There has to be some pot.
So we cannot use GeoBond funding for state-owned infrastructure, and that's why there are improvements being made in other areas of the city with that GeoBond money, but because this is all owned by the state, we are not able to do that.
I really think Collins needs something. I feel like it's forgotten. It just doesn't, the state is bare bones, and it's one of our most iconic streets of historic buildings. And if we upgrade it, it will pay us back in terms of people visiting and investing there and wanting to return there, and the hoteliers who live there. And if we start showing pride on that street, I feel like others will follow. So I understand from your perspective that this is very expensive. And I know that we have no extra money right now. But I would like to refer it back to the commission to see how we can get this money some other way. Because I understand that from your perspective, there are like alleys and potholes and a lot of stuff that needs to get fixed.
Mm-hmm.
And the last thing we need is decorative art. But it's Collins Avenue, and I want to beautify this historic district. So my motion would be to refer this back to the commission to do it and find the funding. It could be 2 years from now, but it's okay, because, you know, maybe we don't have the funding this year, but in 2 years from now, when we do want something beautiful for Collins Avenue, don't you agree?
Yes, we do. I don't agree on the price, so let's move it to the full commission with no recommendation and see if you can convince the rest of the colleagues to move forward.
Well, this is from 5th to 15th. If you think about it, it's really not that expensive to get stamped concrete, specialty sidewalks, or our pavers. The pavers are $3 million. Yeah, but it's a huge area. It's transformative.
Agreed.
I've seen us spend way more on stuff that's not even nearly as transformative as this would be. So I think, like, bang for your buck, if we could somehow get this money from tourism taxes, if our tourism taxes are not terrible.
And I do love pretty
We
stuff.
could.
I want that to go on the record.
Look, I
I
understand.
like pretty stuff, and yes.
I understand from your perspective that why the recommendation is such, but I would still like to argue this with my colleagues, because I do think that sometimes we need to go above and beyond. And I went out to the state, I spoke with them, they said they were willing to let us do it as long as we paid for whatever it is. So, let's see.
And-
Because I'll tell you, Collins Avenue, now that you're here, welcome. If you go up Collins, you have to see the state of our sidewalks. Have you checked them out? The state sidewalks?
I live on Collins, actually.
Okay.
and- Yep, so
All right, so you
I
must
do
be
traverse
walking
it.
along, and
Yep.
have you seen the sidewalk in front of the Fountain Blue and the Eden Rock? It is terrible. I heard we did repair it recently, thanks to Jackie, but, yeah. I'm only asking for 5 to 15.
Yeah, and one other thing to consider, and this is not a huge issue, but if we do pavers, when there's a utility cut, the repair process is much more intensive. And with all the redevelopment that does happen in Miami Beach, that's one thing to consider. Every time somebody comes and does a utility cut, whether it be FP&L or you know, another utility, they have to come back and repair something. The more artistic, the more difficult it gets. So we do need to keep that
How
in
do
mind.
other cities do it? How do
We're
other
gonna-
iconic?
We're gonna bring it back
okay.
to the full commission
Well, this
and have a
is
full
really
agenda.
transformative. I
I
understand.
agree.
Okay.
Argue it at the full commission, and we're going to move on to item 28.
I would just like to challenge you and say that in many other areas of the world, they have beautiful flooring and sidewalks, and they make it work. And I think we need to get there. It's, so anyway.
Okay, thank you.
Item number 28 is discuss the maintenance of existing crosswalks along the need for installation of additional crosswalks in North Beach. This item was sponsored by Commissioner Dominguez and co-sponsored by Commissioner Bott, and Public Works and Transportation will be handling this item.
Okay, so this item came to me. My aide lives up in North Beach and has really given an inventory of places that need improvements up there for safety reasons. And Commissioner Bott has co-sponsored, and I'll let you give the update. John?
Sorry, I'm getting to that.
Yeah.
Hold on 1 second. Okay, so we did an assessment on all of the crosswalks and signage in conjunction with the Transportation Department. And we found that as far as the crosswalks went, most of them were in good condition, 63 of them, 12 of them were in fair condition, and 50 were in poor condition, bad condition. Street signs, quite a few of these street signs were in bad condition. We took all this information, compiled it, and we have done maintenance requests to the appropriate agency. This includes FDOT, the county, and the city. The city has begun work on improving anything that falls within their jurisdiction, and we are awaiting improvements from the other jurisdictions. In addition, we do have some projects coming up that involve resurfacing the road where these pavement markings will be upgraded, and we will be waiting for those projects for them to be replaced.
Okay, so Commissioner Bott, do you have any comments?
She's not in.
Does this have to go back to the full commission, or?
I don't see a need for it. We've identified, we've done an assessment, and we're in the process of having everything updated that was identified.
Okay, so why don't we bring it back in 6 months and see what progress has been made?
Sounds good?
Okay. Item number 14.
Okay. Item number 14 is discussion on reviving employee shuttle program and other transportation solutions for the Fontainebleau Hotel staff. This item was sponsored by Commissioner Dominguez, and Transportation will be presenting.
Okay, so I recently had meetings with the Fontainebleau general manager and then also with the HR department, and they explained that there were surveys that were being done. But during my conversation, the HR department told me that in the past they had an incentive program where people, employees that carpooled 4 to a car would get free valet at the hotel. There also was, years and years ago, a shuttle program that would pick people up at their homes. And of course, I did encourage them to give first look at Miami Beach residents, because that would help eliminate having people driving in and out of our city. Fontainebleau is the number 2 employer in our city as far as number of people, and most of them live off the beach. So that is a huge burden, especially on 41st Street. And I wanted to hear where we were with the survey, if this is something that we have an answer for now, or if we should bring back as well.
So, good afternoon, Madam Chair and Commissioner Rosa Gonzalez. Oneil Rodriguez, for the record, Assistant Director with the Transportation Department. So the Florida Department of Transportation funds several commuter services, and one of them is the South Florida Commuter Services. And this South Florida Commuter Services promotes and coordinates carpooling, van pooling, public transit, and other services in our city. And the memo identifies a lot of the different programs that they have available for different employees. Now, with regards to the survey that was conducted, that was in partnership with Commissioner Alice Fernandez. There's another item where we're looking at other alternatives in our city to promote broader workforce transportation solutions and employer partnerships incentives. And like you said, Madam Chair, we conducted a survey with a Fountain Blue. Now, out of 1,716 employees that were surveyed, we only received responses from about 483, and that is 29% of its workforce. Now, based on those responses, there is a strong interest in shuttle service. More than half of the respondents indicated that they would use a free dedicated employee shuttle to commute from a nearby park and ride location, with an additional 14% expressing conditional interest pending details such as timing and frequency of the shuttle. Now, with the South Florida Commuter Services, again, there's different programs available. One of those, it's a guarantee ride home. It also provides 95 Express 3 plus carpool program. It also has a van pool program and also transit free and park and ride facilities. So our recommendation is to work with Fountain Blue, facilitate that communications between Fountain Blue and the South Florida Commuter Services, so that way their employees can benefit from these programs that are currently available to them.
Okay, I agree with you, and we need to increase the number of survey responses. 30% is not good, or 29%. We need it over 50%, close to 60%. So can we bring this back for discussion in 30 days to see where we are with surveys? And if you need my help in meeting with the Fountain Blue again and trying to get things done.
Yes, just for the record, they've been great partnerships as part of us to try to get as many respondents available and, have their employees actually submit a response. They made available incentives for their employees. But yeah, we could definitely go back to them and see if we can redo the survey to get more responses.
Let's do that, and Commissioner Rosa Gonzalez.
Thank you for addressing this. Believe it or not, Mark was trying very hard to work on this. What happened on 195 where they finally painted a lane for a bus, and the bus was supposed to go from Arlington Heights over to Miami Beach, and I saw the lane and nothing ever happened with the lane?
So that is for the Bus Rapid Transit system that the county is currently deploying. That service has been delayed. We're pending, there are some constraints that they have on the county side. However, buses are currently using that lane to go around the traffic. So even though the Bus Rapid Transit is not currently in operation right now, the current bus routes that do operate along east and west, along I-185 are currently utilizing those lanes.
And when is the county going to give us the BTR?
Unfortunately,
BRT.
the BRT, correct. Unfortunately, we have not been able to secure an exact date based on different constraints that they have on the county side, but we are in constant communication, and we have expressed the need to have that new service in service.
What's the concern? We got them the lane, and we need a bus. That goes from Arlington
My
Heights
understanding
to
has been that they
195.
have staffing constraints. They have not been able to secure enough drivers to drive the buses to be able to provide the service to the adequate level.
So it's a bus driver issue?
That's my understanding.
That seems kind of ridiculous that we haven't gotten the bus. You're keeping this on, right? And hopefully you can speak to
We
the
could
county
definitely
and.
provide an update on that as well.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, that is also part of the other item that is currently at FERC.
Constant following up,
I
right?
know.
On
Constant.
hundreds of different initiatives.
Okay, so we'll bring this item back.
3 days.
Yeah, let's do that. And then item 16, I need to defer it. We'll go to item number 15.
Okay. Item number 15 is discuss the Transportation, Parking, Bicycle, Pedestrian Facilities Committee's recommendation for Art Week / Art Basel 2025. This was sponsored by Commissioner Dominguez, and Transportation will be presenting.
So the city is recommending that we do everything we did in 2024. You're also making some movements from Monday through Sunday, December 1st through 7th. Water taxis are increasing from 4 to 7, as well as the connector shuttle service from 3 to 5. I think it's important that we move this to the full commission, given that Art Basel is such an enormous event, and the full commission should make any recommendations on tweaks or anything with enough time as possible.
Just, sorry, again, good afternoon, Madam Chair. The enhanced multimodal plan that the city has proposed is contingent upon funding availability. Right now, the city, the Transportation Department did submit an enhancement to be able to do everything that you listed, to be able to increase the shuttles available, and also the water taxis, and also providing the service from Monday through Sunday instead on Wednesday to Sunday. Right now, the recommendation for the enhancement has only been to be able to provide the same level of service that was provided in 2024.
Okay, Commissioner Rosa Gonzalez.
This has to be top priority. You know, we're talking about doing an art exhibit during, you know, Art Basel, our own art that we commission an artist to do, and that's fine, and I love that. But if I had to choose between having solid transit options and working functionalities, I'd rather have both, obviously, but this does need to be top priority. And by the way, everybody loved what you did last year, the extra bicycles, the water taxi, everybody's talking about it. I saw Jose and he was presenting to the DDA and he was so proud of his initiative. 30,000 people got on bikes at the convention center, rode to the water taxi. So I love it because I think there were lessons learned. And I mean, I support it. I hope that there's support at the full commission for this because this is really what our tourism dollars are for. Stuff like this and beautifying our historic district. That's why hotels pay a bed tax. So that.
All right, so we'll move this to the full commission. And I believe that's the last item.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Is that the last item? Okay, well, thank you, everybody. The meeting is adjourned.